don't you?
That is a great piece for us all to get started with. We are on the same page when it comes to that. So,
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, Platinum Stardew Valley.
So here we go.
Care to talk about that, Greg?
Yeah, that is a challenge. I mean, what did you play that on, Mark? The PS4?
Well, PS4, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you probably know this, but it released glitched on PS4 to begin with, right? So like I was going for like all the artifacts, and I found the dinosaur egg, and I went to save, and the game crashed out on me. And you know how rare those freaking artifacts can be. I found it a second time, went to save, and it crashed out on me. And I was done with the game by then, right? So like a month later, I gave it another go because they had patched it. And I found the dinosaur egg. It didn't crash out on me. And I saw it, so I just basically kept on playing it. Now I've got every trophy except for the don't die while playing the Journey. The arcade game.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it is freaking hard. That is one hard trophy.
Yeah, the amount of time for Stardew Valley, I was just like I said before, it's a great game. Stardew Valley is a fantastic game. It's just yeah, though that was a lot of undertaking for time. A lot of games, when it gets to that point of like how many hours I can only imagine you got to put into it, it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go work on something else.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to post the link here. Try to get some people in.
See, at some point when you turn into a 31-year-old adult human being, you have to be ready to cut your losses on some things. And
oh, definitely, I will know that feeling in like less than a little over a month now.
Oh wow, is he the baby on this interview?
He might be.
Oh wow, that's weird.
That is okay. I think the way I'm going to get it, because when you're one trophy away, I mean, that's a slap in the face if you don't get it, right?
Totally. I started playing. I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn now, and I was gonna go for the platinum, like straight up, and then somebody told me that there's a missable trophy, and I had already gotten to the point where I missed it, and now I'm like, I don't know if I want to replay this entire game, but if I end up getting everything else, I will end up
trophy.
Yeah, there's a missable trophy because you have to get all the allies to be with you at the end of the game, and the only way to do that is by only using the heart option in dialogue choices.
Oh, that's lame.
Now, is that every single dialogue option, or is that just a failsafe?
Every single thing that you get the choice of doing the heart, you have to say heart.
Wow.
Now, granted, I'm sure some people are still messing with it to figure out exactly what ones you have to and which ones you don't, but as far as I know, you have to, and I beat the game and I didn't get that trophy, so I clearly missed one of the missable guys, because I usually play a jerk in games. I like whatever the
yeah,
like, I'm gonna, ever since like the BioWare RPGs, I've always gone with the jerk options. So when you give me like, basically you're gonna pigeonhole me to force me to be one way for a trophy, it's just like, oh, you just take away the fun now. Now I gotta be like all nice to people.
Who isn't? Yeah, that's the go-to option, isn't it? The sarcastic jerk options.
Yeah,
especially in
far and away the best thing in Fallout 4.
Definitely, and if you haven't, you're playing Horizon Zero Dawn now, and not spoiling much, but yeah, like there's so many people that are jerks to you because you're an outcast. Like you want to tell those people off, like. But no, you gotta be kind to them, or else you don't get them to join you at the end of the game. Or whatever.
Yeah, it has those religious cult undertones too, and my knee-jerk reaction is, "Oh, shove your Earth Mother up your ass."
Pretty much.
I think that's fair.
So, but yeah, well, I hope you don't have to pick heart every single time throughout the game, because
you've already done messed it up.
I think I have. I picked heart, like, right at the beginning when that boy throws a stone at you. I picked heart then, and then I picked heart another time on a side quest where some chick asked you to look for her missing brother. But otherwise, I've only come with 2 other choices, and I didn't pick heart on those. So,
there's actually not that many of them overall, thankfully. So, but I don't know positively which ones you have to or not. I just know that that's one of them, and I know I missed it. Or unless there's some side character that I hadn't interacted with yet that counts. But for me, going through who one of them, I don't know who they even are. Yeah, because of somebody in my chat, I was streaming it, and they came in and said that, are you going for the platinum? I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. And they're like, did you do this? I'm like, yeah. Look, well, you got to play the game again. And I'm like, well, now it went from like a 70%, 80% chance of going for the platinum. Now it's going to be like a 20.
Yeah. Well, on that note, when Greg told me that, hey, I found this guy, and he actually responded to us when we asked for an interview, you added me to the friends list on PlayStation Network, or did I send you the invite? I can't remember which it was.
One or the other. You may have added me because I may not have been on my system at the time.
Okay. Well, I went and looked at your trophies, and you have 162 platinums.
That is correct.
So that's a lot of trophies. So how dogged are you about going after trophies in video games? How much do you like the whole trophy thing?
For me, I'm a big fan of trophies. I love trophies. Without the added, like that little added thing of a platinum, possibility of platinum is always a bonus to me in games. One of the reasons I'm really sad that Nintendo has refused to add that sort of system, achievement, or trophies, or whatever it may be. It's not an end-all, be-all for me. Like, if a game doesn't have a platinum, I'm still going to play it, but I may not do everything in it because of that reason. But I told it, like, to me, it's like, it just adds to the game. It doesn't take away anything from it. Like, it doesn't hurt a game to get rid of the trophies or whatever. It's not going to hurt anything.
So now, I think it guides you. I think it helps you get through. Like, it lets you know what to do. It's a nice little checklist. Now, Greg, on the other hand, I don't know. He might not play a game if it doesn't have a platinum.
Right.
He's a burgeoning trophy whore. Yeah.
I'm the resident trophy whore, but you have me beat, so he can't say anything, even though he will.
I will, totally.
Well,
that's my point.
But, I mean, like, also with what I do, because I review so many games, there are so many games that come out that don't have platinums, which always boggles my mind. Like, I do a weekly video now where I talk about everything new on PlayStation for that week and go over the new trophy lists and stuff.
Interesting.
And I give, every week almost, I give a little bit of shade to the makers of the Arcade Archive series, because those games bug the crap out of me. Because I love classic retro games, and I love classic arcade games, but they release, like, the worst trophy list ever. They're $8 a piece, and they never have a platinum. And I'm just like, I would kill for a platinum in a game like Bubble Bobble. Like, I want that plat. And, no, they're just like $8 and no platinums. But yeah, like that's like I said, I love it. I love trophy hunting. It's just one of those things that has become part of what I do also. Like, I started doing some easy platinum videos, like telling people some of the easiest ones, and like the really easy ones. Because some people are like, oh, like this game is easy or this game's easy. It's like, well, how long did it take you to do it? Well, it's easy. It took 40 hours though. I'm like, well, that's like, yeah, that's easy, but that's not really easy. Let's look at the ones that take a couple of hours, like 5 or less hours.
My name is Mayo.
Yep.
The best. There is no better.
Be the number one.
Yeah.
It is. There's no game that's shorter as of this moment, and plus you get a cross buy for $1. You get 2 platinums in an hour, maybe a little bit more if you don't want to click it as fast. But like right now, I'm working on another one of the really easy ones that just came out this week. Another one of the hidden picture games. This one's the Grim Legends: The Forsaken Bride is what I'm working on right now. But
so hidden picture as in spot the item we tell you to?
Yeah, it's like it's a point and click adventure game. There's a whole ton of these. They're from that company Big Fish, that they just permeate PC. They're all over PC, and now a lot of them are on Steam as well, and there's been a few that have now trickled over to Xbox and to PS4, and they all have platinums on PS4, and they take like 2-3 hours, or less in order to get them with a guide. So I've been working on like that.
I sense Greg's wallet is emptying. That would be my suspicion there.
Yeah, thankfully
So
they're
I
not
gotta
super
share.
expensive.
I gotta share the story of how I even found you. I've started writing reviews for this site called darkstation.com, and I'm in there like, oh, what's it called, trial phase, where they want you to write 3 reviews for them before they consider you a staff member or whatever. And so they had 3 PS4 games, and they're not the newest PS4 games out. They were Earthlock, Festival of Magic. What were the other 2? Shoot. I looked at them and I can't even remember. But obviously I want to see what these games are before I pick one. And so I look them up, and you have reviews on all 3 of them. And I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's got so much time. Because, I think the oldest one was from Valentine's Day, maybe. But yeah, so super impressed. That's how I even found you on YouTube. I was very impressed. You get to a lot of indie reviews, it seems.
Yeah, I've kind of made my whole thing that because there aren't that many other YouTube sites or YouTubers or even websites covering these games, and it's not a huge audience out there usually, but there are people that want to know if these games are any good or not. And I started because I got into reviews only about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But really the last year is when I've been like, okay, I'm going gung-ho on this. I do, now 3 to 5, 6 reviews a week. Mostly with the indie games.
That is quite a bit of reviewing.
I actually have a Google Doc of how many I've done. I've done close to 200. I'm at like 193, 194 now reviews since September of 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the steady pace right there.
That's pretty prolific. So, when it comes to how you started doing media, you said before we started the interview, started broadcasting anyways, that you started with YouTube in 2007?
Yes, October 20th, 2007.
Wow, he's got that date down. So, what made you decide, I'm going to start posting stuff on YouTube, I'm going to do media, and then, were there any inspirations for this, and then how did you segue into what you do now?
Basically, I was on HaeravonFAQs, and the whole Let's Play thing had been barely going yet at that point. And I saw some people doing videos, especially of old school NES games, and it was nothing against them, but I didn't realize what Let's Play was, which was basically what it was supposed to be, was playing games for the very first time, playing them blindly and commentating as you play them. But I watched them, and it was nothing against the videos, but when I was seeing simple mistakes or games that I really knew, I was like, they're dying all over the place, they don't know where to go, or whatever it may be. I was like, I could do better than that, as far as gameplay was concerned. And so I did a video and I put it up, and it was awful, but that got my foot in the door, and I gained a small audience pretty quickly because there wasn't that many others out there still doing it. The YouTube Let's Play community was extremely small, and even caused a rivalry with the website that began Let's Plays, and I got lampooned famously on Retsupre for my very first video ever. And I kind of, at that point, which was a few months later, I kind of got out of it. I actually closed my original channel, not just because of that or anything like that. It was a lot of personal stuff going on at the time, and I just didn't know if I would be able to keep doing it. So I closed it, but then, surprisingly, I got hit with a lot of emails, for that time, a lot of emails, so people were like, hey, we really liked your stuff, where'd you go, what happened? And I decided to reopen my channel a few weeks later, and I've been going ever since. And then, basically, I used to be an EMT. I still am an EMT, but I was doing it full-time. Now I'm just a volunteer. But a lot of stuff happened, and I left the company I was with, and I was like, well, my YouTube's doing okay, Twitch is now becoming a thing, I'm going to go ahead and try this full-time. I had some savings built up, I had some other stuff going on, and so I started doing it full-time, and things started to dry up or weren't growing, and I'm like, I need to grow my channel. I'm starving enough as it is. I have to do something to grow. And I was like, you know what? People have always asked me to do reviews, but I never felt comfortable doing them. So I did kind of like a pilot, random just vlog of a review, and it did pretty good. It got a lot of response at least, and for me, it did really well view-wise at that time. So then I did another one, and that did pretty okay. And then from there on, I just slowly started doing more and more until the point now that I'm doing 4, 5, 6 a week.
So yeah, we were going to ask you if this was
that was one of our questions.
Yeah, this is I used to be. It was like one of those things where I didn't tell people a lot of times what I was doing full time. Now it's not the only work I do. I do still do some nightclub event stuff. Because I used to be very much in the nightclub and rave scene for years, but I kind of got out of that, and I'm getting back in, and so that's one of the things I do. I do some freelance teaching of like individual one-on-one lessons about social media and like computer work and stuff like that. So I do a little bit of extra stuff to kind of supplement what I'm not making currently, and I'm broke as hell, but at least I'm enjoying what I'm doing for the first time in my life as opposed to being miserable at my job, and that's the biggest plus for me for what I do.
That's what it's really all about, I think. I mean, Greg...
life's too short not to try to do what you want to do.
Hey, better to try and fail than to, you know, than to never
That's
try.
That's what I've always said, and I truly believe in that. You gotta at least try. If you fail, oh well, you fail, and then you move on to something else. And the good thing is, at least with what I do, and keeping my license and stuff with EMT work and emergency care work and all that stuff, is if I need to go get a job, I can go get a job tomorrow. There's always people in the medical field needing. There's always work in medical field, and there is a lot of private ambulance companies. Basically, they're the ones that transport from like hospitals to homes, or like emergency rooms to home, or from nursing homes to the hospital, or that kind of stuff. And it's still EMT work, so it's like one of those things. Like I could get a job again tomorrow if I really needed one. So at least I have something also to fall back on.
Well, your YouTube channel does seem to be doing relatively well. You've got, what was it, 15,000, 16,000 last I checked?
It's 16,700 at the moment. I just for example, switching to the reviews of how big a growth that's been for me, is in 2015 I only gained like 1,700 new subscribers. In 2016 I gained like 4,700 new subscribers. So clearly something was working as far as the reviews are concerned. At least I'm getting some new subscribers.
Well, you probably filled a niche that no one really had. Like you said, people want to know about these indie games, and you know, no one covers them. There's a million people reviewing all the AAA stuff that comes out, but
exactly, and that's the struggle too. So I get a lot of people that are like, "Hey, are you reviewing this big name title, this big name title?" And I do review a few of them. I just reviewed Horizon Zero Dawn, but you're struggling. You're competing with everybody, and once if you don't get it early, you know, like in order to review it, you're so far behind. Like if you have to wait till the game's release, good luck as far as getting an initial audience, unless you're huge. God, my voice is cracked. That was fantastic. But like if you were like someone, and I'm not saying fan, whatever, we can talk about whoever, but let's just use an example, someone like an Angry Joe, he can put up a review 2 months after the game comes out, and he has a huge audience still. I put up a review of a game 2 months after it comes out, I'm not getting anything, you know?
Yeah. I mean, no, don't worry. As long as I'm here talking, you will not have the most effeminate voice in this interview. So don't worry about how much your voice cracks. And also,
this week alone, my voice. It's just not. I streamed 8 hours yesterday, like 8 hours the day before, and I got a 24-hour stream tomorrow.
All for Horizon Zero Dawn, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the last 2 days. Have been all Horizon Zero Dawn. Plus, I played about 5 hours off stream. So it was just like getting the game beat and all. And then I got a 24-hour stream tomorrow for the Switch, so that'll be fun.
Oh, so you are getting the Switch. Okay.
There's another one of my questions.
I am getting it. Yes, I am getting the Switch.
So let's talk to the Switch. About the Switch. To the Switch?
That's a talk to the Switch. Way to go, Nathan. That's a good segue. Boy, it seemed. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. This thing seems so far like a $360 Zelda machine.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's not wrong at this point. I did a donation incentive on my stream. I was like, hey guys, if you want me to get the Switch, and I want to get one. It wasn't against it because I love Zelda. I'm a huge Zelda fan. Of course I want it. But I was like, I'm not going to go broke and jeopardize the channel as far as other games, buying other games, other stuff like that, just to get the Switch. So I was like, hey, if you guys want to donate and we reach a goal, I'll go get the Switch and do a 24, marathon stream for it. And that's what happened. Because yeah, the launch lineup is terrible, and I've gotten a lot of flack being like, it's not the worst, it's not a bad launch, you're just blah 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 blah. And I'm like, it's a bad launch when like even the Wii had more games at least. You know, like, and that had Zelda too. Like, that was Twilight Princess was launched first on Wii. So, like, it's the same deal, but at least it had more games.
Isn't that the strangest thing that people are so defensive over their plastic? Like, if you point out
ridiculous.
Objective reality about a system, and people are just rampaging. Like, I got into a little argument. No, I wouldn't say an argument, but we had some words, one of my bosses and I, about the Microsoft Game Pass system. I'm like, it's better than PS Now. And yeah, it has Microsoft on it, so obviously it's not better. Yeah, it's better. It's objectively better than PS Now. So, but you know, some people are very dedicated to their brand.
And I fully get it. I actually, as soon as the Xbox, I don't have the One. I actually switched off of 360 after the whole Kinect debacle. Like, when they went all Kinect for a while, I kind of switched over, and I've stayed with Sony now since. But I always say, as long as you have the system that best fits you, whatever exclusives are on the one or the other that you like more, that's the system you want. Other than that, you're pretty much good, because the AAA releases are going to be on both. A lot of them, are on multi-console. And even the indie games, most indie games are on both. So you're not really missing much. But yeah, people, like, when the Xbox just announced that new thing, I was like, it's basically a better version of PlayStation Now. Like,
dude, you're like my long-lost brother, man. I was a Xbox boy, too, and then they did their Xbone reveal, and I was like, no.
Always on. Hashtag always on.
But
yeah,
you know what this
that
means,
whole thing
right,
was
Greg?
pushed me away.
It means he's gotten 162 trophies in, the last 3 or 4 years?
My first one
Are
was...
those all from the PS4?
No, it's PS3 and PS4. But I used to achievement hunt before I trophy hunted. I was 170,000 gamer score before I switched over to Sony.
Wow. I felt bad about losing 40,000. You're like, yeah, I had 4 times that much, but I made the switch anyways.
Well, I actually, when I did that,
I
was going to get out of it, and I had a friend that somewhat trophy hunted, but she only had like 12 platinums at the time. She's like, you should trophy hunt. You should trophy hunt. I'm like, you don't want me to do that because I will beat you. Like, there's not a question. I will beat you. And she kept poking me, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And in a week, I already passed her.
Wow. Did she regret that?
I was just like... It's like, I've done this game before. I've mass achievement hunted. Like, I just say, okay, like, here's Hannah Montana, here's Avatar, here's, let me grab all the easy ones real quick, boom, 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 boom. Hey, look, I've already passed you in a week, and I just put no effort into it.
So, one of our podcast members who's not on the stream with us asked if you have a Vita.
I do have a Vita, but I've lost my Vita. I don't know where it's went. I had it on my desk for like months and months and months, and I didn't play it very often. But I was like, oh, when My Name is Mayo came out, I was like, I'll boot my Vita and get the extra platinum on the Vita, and I can't find it. I've been looking for months for this Vita, and I don't know where it is. So either
as soon as you find it, you have another platinum.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I have a few other cross-buy ones that, like, I just have to boot it up and get, like, the instant double plat and stuff like that.
Wow.
Like, the best is Sound Shapes. Sound Shapes is still the best.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Sound Shapes.
Yeah,
Nathan, if you didn't know, Sound Shapes, you can save your progress to the cloud and then download your progress to, like, the Vita, and it instantly syncs up all your trophies.
So if you, like, for example, I beat it on PS4 and then I boot it up on PS3, boom, plat. Boot up on Vita, boom, plat. So 3 plats for 1. Also, the cloud save works if you decide for some reason to waste the money and buy the foreign versions. If you buy, like, the Japanese version, it has a separate trophy list, so you can just load up your cloud save, boom, another platinum.
Wow.
You can get like 10 platinums in Sound Shapes if you wanted it.
I would be a trophy whore, and I do like trophies. I like hunting them. It's also kind of part of the job because people like trophies. They want to know when you write a guide how to get them, but I just don't have the time to go into every game and just blitz them for trophies. I have to spend a month on this game and then a month on that game, so that's my excuse.
Yeah, doing what I do is like, thankfully, there's a lot of these indie games also doing 5 reviews a week. It's like a lot of them, thankfully, are relatively short. Like, so I don't have to. I have to struggle too much as far as time is concerned. But even then, like Horizon Zero Dawn was like, oh god, this is gonna be a long week.
Yeah, it looks like it's a longer game.
It was longer than I thought it was going to be, just for main quest alone, not even counting side stuff. It was actually a longer main quest than I thought it would be.
Wow. I didn't actually think it would be that long. I'm still pretty close to the beginning, but my forte is kind of big open world games like The Witcher and Fallout, so I was kind of expecting this to be a sort of easy project, relatively.
I think, like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, compared to Fallout, I don't know there's as much intricacies as Fallout, but there's a lot of collectibles in Horizon. There's like 4 or 5 sets, plus 4 or 5 side activities that you have to all complete. So...
Yeah, I watched your review right before we went on this interview, and you compared it to Far Cry Primal at some point, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been saying. So.
Yeah, it's as soon as I booted up the map for the first time, the map alone, like as soon as I brought it up with all the icons and the way the icons are set up and everything, I was like, this looks like a Far Cry game. And then the platforming, especially when you get farther in, you have to do more platforming. It was like very much Uncharted / Assassin's Creed with like climbing on ledges, grabbing ledges, jumping from ledge to ledge. You do a lot of that later on in the game, so like it's kind of that mix. But yeah, definitely as far as open world, Far Cry for sure.
Maybe a bit of Shadow of Mordor mixed in there with the
Shadow of Mordor as well. Like those modern open world. It takes a lot of like little things from a lot of the modern open world games, which isn't a bad thing. It just, to me, it didn't quite stand out as much as I hoped it would on its own. So it was like good story, good voice acting, great world, a great creative world, but just not enough of the other stuff to make it stand out as a complete original title.
Yeah, it does seem to draw a lot of its strength from the actual world and, Robo-Dinos. I saw, E3 2015 was where we first saw it, and I was like, game has Robo-Dinos, and look, the gameplay looks good, so I'm sold. I don't care about anything else. But
yeah, pretty much.
So this is going a little bit off topic, but what do you think about Shadow of War? Have you been following that? Is that a big thing for you?
Shadow of Mordor is not a game that I watched someone else play. I never actually got a chance to play myself. So, and I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings guy. So it's a game it's a good game. It was like watching it be played. Like, I know Shadow of Mordor was a good game, but like the new one, I'm just like, cool. I'm glad they're making one. I knew they would. Like, there was no doubt they would. But I don't know. Was there some kind of controversy or something with it? Because I haven't watched the trailer yet.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, right? What we should have opened the podcast or the stream with, interview. Words, they fail me. How did you get started gaming? Like, what were your first games, your first system? How did it all begin? Because I always find this interesting.
I started when I was 2 years old. My parents put a controller in my hand, and I haven't stopped. I was able to beat Mario with the controller behind my back at a very, very, very young age.
I used to NES.
Yeah, and I would turn my back to the TV and like they're basically blindfold and still be able to beat levels in Mario from a very, very young age. I don't know the exact thing. I used to have it on tape, and I don't have it anymore. Like it just got lost in moving over the years. But yeah, no, I've been gaming since I could hold a controller.
Wow, literally in this case.
Yep.
Pretty much. Your parents indulged that hobby.
Yeah, they were at the time, like they were gamers. They're not anymore, but the NES era, like they were very much in the gaming. So that's what helped. Plus, my family members, my aunts, uncles, they were in the gaming at the time too. So like if I was babysat at any of their houses, they all had systems. Like even that's how I first found the Master System was at my aunt's house. She had a Master System. I didn't even know what that was until I played it there.
So you come from a gaming family, almost, if such a thing could be said to exist.
Yeah, especially back then during the era of the 80s, like, my grandmother owned a bar and they had a Miss Pac-Man machine there, so like that was something that was always a part of everything. Like they played like my grandmother played Miss Pac-Man like all the time. So yeah, I would say definitely was, but then of course life and things would evolve, and then after the NES era, things started falling out except for a few members of my family.
Yeah, okay. Gonna go ask Greg.
So the NES, that's basically what you started with.
Correct.
Was there any games in particular that you remember fondly from that era?
Super Mario, any of the Marios. I remember buying Mario 3 was the very first game I bought on my own, where I like rolled up pennies, and that was
worth it.
That was like the very first game I ever bought. That was like, it wasn't my money still because I was like, very young, but still, I got every quarter I could, do chores and do stuff like that, and saved up enough with rolls of money in order to buy Mario 3. My favorite game of the NES era is Star Tropics. That's my favorite.
Boy, yeah. Did you lose the little letter thing that you had to dip in water?
It's actually funny. I actually played it a lot at my aunt's house because she had, and then I got my own copy of it from KB Toys in like the bargain bin, and I kept that letter in pristine condition for a long time. But I had written down, of course, what the codes were, so I knew what they were, so I didn't have to mess it up. And then, of course, I got lost over time, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I had it at one point.
Yeah, that was definitely. Nathan, are you aware of what I'm talking about?
Not a clue.
See, I was gonna say lots of people aren't even aware of this. That was an impressive thing to include in the game. They gave you a letter that you dipped in water. They gave you like the answer to it was either a password or a code or something. If I remember right.
It's halfway, like about halfway through the game or so. Like you get to a point where you don't move on, and you can't move on until you enter this code. It's kind of like a copyright protection thing.
Almost.
Like, and yeah, you had to actually. The game came with a physical letter that you had to dip in the water, and you got the code in order to put it in. That's the only way you could continue. If you didn't have that code, you weren't able to continue. I think it was also done because of renting games start to become popular at that time. So the rental places wouldn't give the letter with it, so you could only get so far, and Nintendo wanted you to go buy the game, of course. So
DRM 1980s style.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not totally
unfamiliar with it. So the one question
I
gotta ask. I gotta get this out of the way. This should have been question number one.
It should have been.
Asked me. Where does Cornshaq come from? Why corn?
It gets asked so much. I literally have a command in my chat, like that I can bring it up. But anyway, it's.
I'm sure it does.
Oh yeah, of course. But anyway, so it comes from two things. It comes from corn nuts, the snack food, corn nuts, and of course the video game that's the greatest of all time, Shaq Fu.
Oh boy.
And.
Those
combined are also. I got into basketball in the mid '90s, and Shaq was my favorite player. And I was one of those kids that had the CDs, went to go see Kazam in the theaters. Shaq was awesome to me. So like it just all went together. And it was one of those deals where like I was 18, 19 years old and I was hanging out with friends, and you know how you get delusional at like 4 a.m. and something really stupid becomes really funny. And somehow we had been talking about both Shaq Fu and corn nuts, and I was like, either me or my friend, I don't remember who, said, what if you combined them and made Cornshaq? And it was just one of those things that was so stupid, but we started laughing so much that it became an online handle because of it, and I've used the name ever since.
Well, it's a far better online handle than Mercenary Sniper Death XXX. So.
Before anything XXX.
Yeah, before Cornshaq, I was Le Grill, aka a reference from The Simpsons. I don't know if anyone's a Simpsons fan. That's and then other ones was included Boo Berry, the cereal, because that was just hilarious. But yeah, no, Cornshaq has been my thing since.
A long time now.
That is a good story. I like it.
Yeah, it's far better than Bkstunt.
Which means nothing. So, going back to how many reviews you do, that's far more reviews than I even was aware of, to be quite honest. Like, just even 3 a week is crazy to me.
Yeah, I've done 4 so far this week, and I'm on my 5th that I'm working on while we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane. So how I gotta ask, how do you get all these review copies? Are you partnered with anyone? Are you contacting direct publishers directly, or?
So I only in the last about 2 months have I been getting an increased amount of review copies. Like something like Horizon Zero Dawn, I did not get a copy of. But as far as the rest of them were concerned, I got contacted by another YouTuber randomly back in September or something like that, and he was like, "Hey, you know about certain sites, you know how to blah blah blah," and I was like, "No, I really didn't at the time. I hadn't been getting any games free. The only ones I had gotten free was some Steam guy, a game on Steam, some small little thing was like, hey, contacted me. He's like, here's the code for a game if you want to mess with it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And that was the first time I had ever received a game from anybody. And August, a developer hit me up on my email. I was like, hey, our game is coming out for PS4 soon. Would you like to review it? And they contacted me out of the blue. And I was like, oh, of course, awesome. That'd be amazing. Like, I just, because I didn't know how. The thing about it is, when doing reviews, I had no idea how big you had to be to get any sort of review copy. And I still don't really know because it's so gray area. And there's no guide out there to really tell you, this is how you do a channel on YouTube, and this is how many plateaus you have to reach in order to ask for a review copy. That's just something that doesn't happen. So I signed up for these sites, and you could, request codes, but I was only getting, a couple at most. I was getting denied a lot. I have a connection with Ubisoft. You can sign up for their media thing, and I've requested every game possible from Ubisoft, and I've gotten 0. They wouldn't even give me Uno. I was like, okay, well, and that's their prerogative, and it's not like a bitterness thing, but I was like, okay, so I still apply to try to get them, but they give you a generic email back every time they deny you. I just got the one for Ghost Recon Badlands or whatever it's called. But anyway, so that was going okay, but I wasn't getting enough codes, and it was like, what can I do to increase this? And my channel was growing, and I was spending all this money every week, and it was like, I got to do something. So I just started contacting the individual publishers directly. At first, I was using, and I'm not a fan of the site, but they have an article every week at Kotaku. I'm not a fan of them, but they have a article every week called This Week in Gaming, where they showed what was coming out that week. Because you'd be amazed, you can't go on PSN and find out what's coming out next week as far as the smaller releases are concerned.
Right.
You can't do it.
They don't have a way to show you.
Right, which it drove me insane. I was like, there's gotta be a way to find this out. So Kotaku started doing that, and then about a month ago I found that, Sony does their own blog every week called The Drop or something like that, and that shows everything that's coming out for PS4, PS3, and Vita each and every week. On Friday it comes out. So basically, I go to that every week, I looked at every single game, and I hit up the publisher and send them an email. And I get some codes, other ones I don't ever hear back from. I get promised codes, and then they don't give me codes. So it's a mixed bag. But yeah, that's what I've been doing now in order to help do it. And I do mostly, and the reason why I do mostly PS4 is because they did better for me view-wise. As for Steam, only a handful of Steam games that I've reviewed have ever done well for me as far as viewership goes. Recently, the awful piece of crap game called Bloody Boobs. I did.
That just sounds horrible.
It's as bad as it's worse than you think it would be. And anyway, so I did that as a joke because they sent me the code. I was like, I saw that on the thing. I was like, you know what? I'll request a key for that game, and they actually sent me one. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check this out, and it was as god awful as you think it would be. But it did okay view-wise. Give you
a code, it's Bloody Boobs.
Oh yeah. Bloody Boobs. I also got one for this past week for Flicks and Chill, which is it's a very small, cheap dating game, but it was just like, okay, at least the name meme-wise, at least I can maybe get some views out of it. But other than that, I just mostly focus PlayStation.
So talking about really, really bad games, I saw you had Life of Black Tiger on your trophy list.
Correct.
You have to tell me about
And also,
that game.
let it be known that I was the first to review that game. Before Kotaku picked it up, before Jim Sterling picked it up, before all of them picked it up. I was first one to do Life of Black Tiger. But anyway, yeah, no. You know, the sad part is Life of Black Tiger is not the worst game on PS4 that I've ever played. So, that's a plus, I guess, towards it.
My girlfriend insisted I ask you about it because she went and bought it, and she was like, well, I have to hear what his opinion of it was.
Oh, I gave it a 1. Like, it's one of my few 1s I've given. I've only given a handful of 1s, but I gave one game a 0. But yeah, I mean, it's as awful as it looks, but at least it had a funniness factor because it was so absurd, so bad. But because it was so bad, broken English, broken mechanics, everything was just bad in this game. It looked like a piece of crap, and at least it made me laugh. That was the only plus.
So one redeeming factor. Well, I mean,
Pretty
I have
much.
to ask what your 0 is.
Soulbrain Night of Darkness. This is a game that stole every one of its assets from other games.
Oh my.
It
And
stole
it still
the...
got released.
Oh yeah, no, it stole the voice of Lucina from Super Smash Brothers. It stole music from the game Ori and the Blind Forest. It stole a shield and other stuff from like Skyrim and other MMORPGs. Everything in this game was absolutely stolen. Plus, it was a broken mess that didn't even work. In fact, nobody as of now has beaten it because it's unbeatable.
Oh,
Like
wow.
no one's gotten the trophies for beating it, because it's no saving, and if you exit the game, you have to start from level 1 again. And the game broke. Enemies, basically all it is there's like you're on a map and enemies spawn and you have to kill them all and then you move on to the next level. The problem is enemies spawn inside of rocks and in mountains and you can't get to them and they don't come out and your game's broken. And since you have to start from level 1 again, you have to start over every single time an enemy gets stuck like that. And I did it. I played through up to the point I did like 5-6 times and then I was done. I was like, I can't beat this. I'm reviewing it anyway, but I can't beat this. And I gave it a 0.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
What a game. I can't see there should be. I mean, there should be at least some quality standards in order to put things on the PSN store. It seems to have been going downhill lately. Like, you should be able to prove to Sony or whoever that, yes, you can in fact beat this game. Here's our tester with all the trophies unlocked. Or,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
I mean, at least with Soulbrain, they did eventually take it down, so you can't buy it anymore. Same with like that Afro Samurai volume or Afro Samurai 2 game. They
Yeah.
took that game in as well. But yeah, no, it's like I'm hit or miss on it because for me and what I do, the worse the game is, the better.
I
is
can
true.
imagine.
Because bad reviews, reviews for bad games do better for me than a perfect game. But at the same time, yeah, no, it is definitely there's been an influx of crap. I mean, just alone last year, I gave out like 5 1s. 5-6 1s, and there was like the only reason I gave a game like Orc Slayer a 2 was at least it had a platinum, it was cheap, and you killed orcs, so it delivered on its name. You did slay orcs, so I gave it a 2.
It did everything it promised.
Pretty much, and that's the same reason I gave Bloody Boobs a 1 instead of a 0, because there were bloody boobs in it, so
I have
at
to
least
look
it
this
did
up.
that.
Yeah, that one sounds entertaining.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about it before.
I wish I hope it comes to PlayStation.
Bloody Boobs now on
Bloody
PlayStation
Boobs.
Network. Can you imagine that commercial?
Oh, I can imagine it, and I want it. Like I can see it.
You're basically salivating over Bloody Boobs. Sorry.
It's the worst abomination ever, and yeah. So if that came to Sony, I can just imagine the backlash. And if it had a platinum, and it was boom, this game would sell. I guarantee it would sell a lot.
Yeah, there is a growing community of trophy hunters out there just for PlayStation. Like I couldn't, yeah. Well, that and let's face it, Steam has way more crap than PSN or Xbox or
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo ever will. ever.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I had to even move away from even trying to do Steam reviews, because when there's 7 games that come out a day or more, like, there's no way. Like, every game that comes out is going to get lost in the shuffle unless it's a big name title or it becomes an indie darling, and there's so few of those big indie titles, so they're very few.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, it's just like, there's no way to cover all those games, and every time I tried, it was just like, yeah, this did nothing view-wise, so clearly no one was interested. At least the lowest of the low on PlayStation gets a few people looking for it.
So, what are your future plans when it comes to, like, what you're looking for, ways that you plan to expand, games, systems, whatever you're interested in? You said you were getting the Nintendo Switch. I have to imagine that you are going to end up playing Breath of the Wild. Like, there's no way to have a Switch without it.
Yeah, I'm getting 3 games at launch with the Switch. But yeah, as far as my channel is concerned, it's to continue doing the reviews and continue growing that audience. I've been doing countdowns for a while as well. They're hit or miss as far as viewership goes. I'm always thinking of new ideas and things to try. It's just executing it, and then if it does well. Like, if I work really hard on something and it doesn't do very well, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, it's just not viable for me to spend the time to do it. It's nothing against the video. It's not that I'm not proud of the video or want to do more. It's just it didn't do well. But I set goals for myself regularly as far as hitting subscription numbers. I just recently signed with a different company, as far as, like, you know, that handles the other things. So I'm hoping that does a little bit of added help to me. I just got booked for a couple conventions as a guest for the first time ever, so that's kind of exciting. Pretty much along with that, it's just continue to... I just want to be able to live comfortably doing what I'm doing, and that's the goal. Basically, my main goal is to eventually reach minimum wage on the YouTube. If I want to make enough in a span of a month that would equate to making minimum wage. Once I do that, that's the next big goal, and then they keep growing from there.
Well, you're certainly doing better on YouTube than I am. I think I did one video that got like 4,000 hits, and it made $10, and I was flabbergasted that it did so well. And everything else is not really done anything. Yeah,
this is such a... People, like, one thing with YouTube and all, because people, of course, are going to, you know, crap on... I don't want to... I probably cussed already on here. I didn't even ask before we started, can I cuss on this thing or not?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, thank you. But basically, people will shit on YouTubers and on content creators, Twitch streamers, and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, about being not a real job or blah, you know, go get a real job, or it's not work. Especially, that's my favorite. What you do isn't work. And I always ask, you know, they're never going to do it because they don't care, but it's like no one has a clue of what goes into trying to make it on one of these things until they try it. Some people fall into it, don't get me wrong. Some people put up a video and it goes super mega viral, and all of a sudden they're doing well, but they can't follow that up. Like, that's an anomaly. Like, making it big on YouTube and being consistent on YouTube is not something that you just fall into. It does take work, and hitting that right moment a lot of times. And if you're not fresh, if you're not something new, it's very, very hard. That's why I always tell people they're like, hey, what do you guys think of, you know, what do you think of my channel, or what do you think I should do, or what improvements I could do? I'm like, if you're doing Let's Plays of retro games, if you're doing it for fun, that's fine. But if you're asking legitimately what you should do to help make it on YouTube, that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to touch retro games and doing Let's Plays of them. Like, you want to get the farthest away from that as humanly possible.
It seems like Let's Plays in general are way oversaturated.
I can only, and I haven't even done it, but I can just imagine typing in Horizon Zero Dawn Part 1 and seeing how many there are on YouTube alone. Like, it'd be astronomical, and I guarantee that if you break it down and get to the farther pages, it's going to be people with 1 view, 2 views. Now, like I said, if you're doing it for fun, enjoy it, love it. You know, I'm happy for you. But I do get asked consistently from people that want to actually try to make it on YouTube and try to start getting something going, and then they get, like, upset with me if I tell them.
Do everything differently.
I actually just point. Yeah, and at this point, I basically tell them, I'm like, do you want me to be realistic with you, or do you want me to just pat you on the back and say, hey, good job, enjoy it, you're doing great? Like, do you want me to be actually realistic with you? Because I will. And not that I have the answers, because if I had the answers, I'd be doing much better than myself. But I've learned a thing or two in 9 years of YouTubing.
Yeah, see, I didn't ask you for any advice on like Twitch and YouTube because basically I just like to screw around. It's not my primary focus. I use YouTube as kind of my vault for gaming stuff I do and record because I can't bear the thought that it's gonna just vanish, and I don't have the hard drive space for it all. So
yeah, no, totally. There's nothing wrong with that either, because you're not looking to do anything with it. It's those people that either A, don't understand what I do as work at all.
Yeah, I
and
can't
then the
stand
people
that.
And then people that want to make it or try to make it or whatever it may be, and then they get mad if I give them like legit advice, like just minor stuff. I'm like, stuff from like title cards or improving the audio or improving the video or doing something else. It's little things, changing the stuff they're doing, but no one ever listens. They never listen.
Yeah, I mean, they think there's a magic trick, and it's like, there is a magic trick.
Isn't.
Look at everybody who's successful, right, and compare what they're doing to what you're doing. And if you can do that, you're probably going to get some results. At least you'll be able to realize what works and what doesn't.
And the key with that is seeing what they're doing and not mimicking it, but making it your own. And that's the hardest part. Because if you just scream at a horror game, you're not going to get a view anymore. Yeah, 5 years ago, if you were the first Markiplier, you were the first Jacksepticeye or whatever it may be, and screamed at a horror game like a 2-year-old, and you were the first one to do it, you may have been able to gain an audience. But now, if you do that, you're nothing. That you're not going to get any viewership.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to do something different.
You can look at what some people are doing, and you can go, okay, this is the kind of content they produce that does well. Right. This is their production value that does well. This is how they advertise it, putting boobs on the title cards, doing top 10 reasons why.
All that stuff. And I do a bunch of it too, and it's out of necessity, out of survival, than it is out of want. Like, I don't want to have to do any, and I try to avoid as much clickbait as possible. But if a game has a woman with giant boobs in it, and I can put that as a title card, it's probably going to happen.
The thing about clickbait, right? People complain, oh, it's clickbait. It's like, yeah, I wonder if there's a bunch of fish going around going, fuck that worm on a hook. That's so tired. Yeah, but people bite. Fish bite.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
You blame
the fucking time.
Blame everyone who clicks on it. Also, the difference between people think everything that gives a vague title or a generic description is clickbait, whereas clickbait is something that is, when you click it, it's not what's really there.
Yeah.
Like if I am playing Senran Kagura or Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, I can put a picture of one of the characters in a bathing suit, and have that as it, because that's in the game. I'm not playing Super Mario and then putting some picture I stole off of Hentai Foundry or DeviantArt with, Peach's cleavage hanging out and putting that as my title. That's not in the game. That's clickbait.
Well, that's the problem. People don't realize that there is actually a difference between titillation and clickbait, and they're not the same.
Exactly. Exactly. But, it's just learning those things and trying to stay ahead of the curve, which is the hardest thing in YouTube. And YouTube doesn't help either, because it's just, it changes the rules on an almost daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't, I actually did the YouTube thing for maybe a year, and I only did it because GameFAQs was like, hey, we want to do video guides. Here's some free stuff. Make us some video guides, and I just cross-posted them to YouTube. I didn't even monetize this shit, and I get strikes. And this is all me, guiding people through games, right?
Right.
I'm
flabbergasted that they're still in business.
What I've noticed is that the music is what will get you the content flags. Pretty much every time for me, it was the music. So, you just gotta not have the game music playing while you're doing stuff, because it's going to... I think there's, rules involved. You can have, up to 30 seconds of a track, but...
It's so hit or miss, and there's certain companies that allow you to do anything with their stuff, and other ones that don't. There are certain, for example, if I'm doing stuff with trailers, there's certain companies' trailers I wouldn't even include in anything, because I know for a fact it's going to get copyright claimed for one reason or another. Nintendo's really bad. Anything with Rooster Teeth, they're effing horrible. And there's a few others I can't think off the top of my head. But also with it, Nintendo flags visual things. So, like for example, like Super Mario, they flag the screen, the life screen of Super Mario Bros. 1. They if that pops up, they're hitting you with a claim. Now, there's a difference, of course, between strikes and claims. But yeah, I try to avoid as much if I can. If I can avoid a claim, I avoid a claim, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things when I was doing YouTube, they would say, oh, content has been discovered on your video and blah, 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 we're demonetizing it. So I never got a strike, but I did get a lot of claims where they basically took the money. And you know what, if it's the audio, fine. It's their audio. Can't argue that, but I just I'd rather just do voiceover over it, not have any of their audio, and then it's, one, they can't flag that as easily, and two, it's mine. Because what's the point of just having the Let's Play where it's just the game? A million people do that. Granted, a lot of people do the voiceover too and they comment on it, but it's still more yours that way.
Right. So. No, exactly.
But don't be worried about the whole, I'm trying to do this for a living and people don't take it seriously. I write video game guides. I get the same thing. One of the things I find funny...
we get less of that.
Well, no, actually, we do get less of that than him, yes. But there are people, like you mentioned GameFAQs, there are people, there was an argument about a year ago, whether you could be a professional game guide author. And, it was kind of self-serving, but the argument was, this is a hobby, not a profession. And I was willing to disagree with them, and... At the end of this year, I will be making minimum wage living. So
there you go, and that's and also just anything. If you're making money off of it, it's technically it's a job. It's work. That's what makes you from amateur to professional is being paid for it. That's the difference between an amateur athlete and a professional athlete. So it's the same deal with anything with gaming and with anything in life. If you're getting paid, it's work. For anything that you're, and also anything that's unconventional, people have a problem with because they didn't think of it. They're not doing it. They're jealous of their 9-to-5 job and they don't like it. And they think that anybody does anything that's not that all of a sudden isn't working, which drives me insane. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things. It's just I've gotten so used to it, but at that point, I just don't have time for them anymore. If you want to think that way, that's cool. Just go ahead, move along. I'm not going to argue with you. You have your belief, and you can believe whatever you want to believe. But yeah, whatever.
My parents were actually very cool about it when I told them. I showed them the first few guides I did professionally, and they were like, "People buy these?" And I was like, "Yeah, apparently they pay me to write them, so someone must be buying them." And they're like, "Oh, cool." But one of the things I find funny is in my contract it says you have to work at least 40 hours a week, right? It's just them trying to put stipulations in so that if you're screwing them essentially and not doing your job, they have some recourse. And it's just it's such a useless stipulation to put in the contract because there's no way you're doing this and working less than 40 hours a week. It's not possible that I will be not writing, not playing, not recording for more than 40 to 60 hours at a minimum.
That's a minimum. For just doing what I do, it's one of those things where it's if my day's not 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours, then it was a day lost at that point. It's because it's
there's
everything.
There's no way you're getting through 3 to 4 indie games and writing reviews in less than 40 hours a week.
Oh yeah, I don't always keep track of it. Sometimes I'm able to easily, for a day, I'll be like, well, I started at 8 tonight, and I'm ending at 8 in the morning. Well, that's easy to know that was 12 hours. But a lot of times it's just it's much more than just, it's just playing. You got to play the game. I got to record a review. I have to edit a review, and then uploading and all that stuff, getting it out there on all the medias, and that's one video. And then it's okay. As soon as that's up, boom, right to the next one. And then I'm doing my retro playthroughs I still do, and I'm doing live streams 4 days a week. And, granted with the live streams, a lot of times I'm playing games now that I'm going to be reviewing, so that helps. But sometimes you can't now. That's one downside with doing the reviews if I get the game ahead of time, because with embargoes, I can't talk about the game or stream the game until a certain point. So it's like, okay, I can't stream this, but this is what I want to work on. Now I got to go work on it extra off stream and stuff like that.
Yeah, some of those embargoes are
ridiculous. Bethesda.
Ridiculous, like Bethesda. Jesus Christ, are you serious? And some of them are for reasons that they shouldn't even have.
I can only imagine. I haven't done anything with Bethesda's yet. Like the biggest company I've done one for was Sega. I did Yakuza 0, and it was like very specific. It's like you can do up to this point video-wise. You can stream up on this date. Then you can stream up to this point on this date. You can talk about up to this on this date. Reviews up to this point or previews up to this point can be done up to this date. Reviews, I was just like, you know what, what's the review? When can I upload a review? Okay, boom, that's my time. And then I was like, make sure my review's done before then. Because I'm not even going to bother. Like, I'm not going to stream it, I'm not going to do anything, I'll get it at that point.
But let's be fair. We spend a lot of time doing this, and it is a lot of work, but it's also working on video games, which is clearly a passion we all share. So it's a pretty sweet gig if you can start turning a profit on it.
That's the dream with, I would think with any gamer would be something to do with gaming, is whether it be writing a guide, whether it be doing reviews, whether it be professional gamer, as far as stuff, or just the Twitch streamers in general, what they're able to do, or just YouTubers doing, Let's Plays or whatever it may be. Like, that's eventually the goal, and so many people want to do it now with a media that's as big as gaming is now. People want to be a part of it, and it's awesome to be able to do what I do. I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else at this point.
I think that's the disconnect a lot of people have when it's not work. It can be both work and fun. It's unfortunate that people haven't hit the life-work balance, but yeah. So.
Just because something is work does not mean it's automatically not fun. It's like, that sucks to not ever have fun at your job. Like, that's a miserable existence, and I did it for years, and I understand it. It's just like, that sucked. Like, life like your entire life outlook is so much better when you're doing something that you're enjoying every day. And, but there's stressful times of, okay, I got this deadline, I got to do this at this time, I have so much of this to do. But it's what I love, so, it's worth the struggles. It's worth the deadline, like making sure, okay, I have to beat this game by 10 a.m. and get that review up, just so I can make sure it's up right when the embargo ends.
For the most part, your deadlines, they're all based around embargoes, or do you find they're mostly like self-driven?
It's both now. Like, before it used to just be my own self thing. Like, I have a goal of, like, every day, like, before a week, I set up my schedule of this day, what I'm going to do and what I need to do. I will not sleep until those activities are completed. So whether or not it's 2 reviews, 3 reviews, 1 review and something else, whatever it may be, until I complete those goals, I won't go to bed that day. So... and because to me, like, that's the most fulfilling part of it, is when I get done, like, for example, Horizon Zero Dawn, spending 24 hours in the span of 2 days getting that up, that felt good this morning, getting that review up and that. But then the other limits are, when I have embargoes, it's pretty much, okay, the embargo ends on that day for reviews, my review will be up at that time. As long as, of course, I got the game way ahead of time, like, that's the other thing, too. It's like, oh, yeah, the embargo ends tomorrow, but we're giving you the game 5 hours before the embargo ends. I'm like, yeah, that may not work. The game I'm working on right now, the company, I got the code. They just got their codes. The game's been out for 2 days, and they just got their codes this morning.
Wow.
It's just like...
Yeah, that can be rough. That can be rough.
It's just like, so I know it's not going to do extremely well for me, but, it's one of those deals where I still got it, so I'm going to do it. I won't accept a code unless I know I'm going to review it.
Yeah, that would kind of be, wouldn't be a violation of trust, kind of just undermining the whole purpose of them giving the codes?
Correct. I mean, I feel like there must be something with some people. I don't know. You get sent so many. Like, a lot of people send me codes. And I'm just like, I don't want it. I won't use it unless I know for a fact I'm going to do something with it. And I'll just tell them that, politely in an email. I'll be like, hey, I'd love to do your thing, but I'm not going to be able to. Or if it's coming to when it comes to PS4, if you want to come to PS4, I'll play it at that point. When it comes to a lot of Steam games. But yeah.
That is kind of a plus and minus of the fields we do. We we kind of set our own hours on a day-to-day basis, but you do have an overarching deadline, a goal you have to achieve, and I mean, you have to be really self-motivated to do this stuff. Like YouTube.
Yeah, speak for yourself, buddy.
Well, you don't. You're like, well, I'll get it when I get it, right? But you're an amateur, so we're talking professionals
yeah,
here, buddy.
True. That's true.
He's the only one with a real people job, I guess, is how it would be.
Yeah, well, as Nathan likes to say, I have screwed myself out of this because I actually have a family.
Those mistakes he's made along the way, but
those past mistakes, all 4 of them.
They force him to do unfortunate things like work for the man.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could do what you guys do. Can't support 4+ people, 5+ people on, because you don't. I mean, let's face it. When you start out doing game reviews, even walkthroughs, reviews, YouTube, Twitch, whatever it is, you don't make enough money to barely support yourself, if that, let alone anyone else.
Yeah, it's something you kind of gotta work up to. And that's a luxury I've had because of my girlfriend, who makes a lot more money than I do, that's for damn sure. So, but what makes you really feel accomplished? Like, is it the number of views you get, like channel views per week or month, or what is it that is your kind of metric for success?
Or your driving force, even your motivation.
Yeah.
It's at this point, it's definitely view numbers and subscriptions. If I see a large amount of subscriptions increase, or a video of mine does extra well, that's the things. Like I set a mark of every video needs to reach 1,000 views within the week or so of it being up, or else it wasn't a successful video. And I slowly been increasing that number as time has gone. I mean, but then I get the numbers that are like when I get a video that does really, really well, for me at least, like my review of East Origins did 10,000 plus, or my review of whatever, I did another one not too long ago that did pretty well. Double Dragon 4 did really well for me. But yeah, like that's kind of my goal now. Like a review needs to at least reach 1,000 within a short amount of time in order to be successful, and then I feel good about that video. Like it was worth putting the effort in, whatever that effort may have been, into doing that video. But you never know, because some games are just not popular, some games have no buzz whatsoever. It's just really hard to sometimes get views on certain reviews. Like no one cared about certain games I've done.
Well, then there's also just the algorithms that YouTube uses that are impossible to fathom. Like some things you'll do, they just seem to get buried, and you're like, well, I thought that would do all right, but other people's things that were later did all right. So
yeah, like why? Like it's and it comes down to things. I've learned more about how keywords work and how titles work, and that kind of stuff. And it's things that you start to learn. Why one thing is doing better than said other thing. But there's no exact science of, hey, you say this, you put this keyword, and this keyword, and all of a sudden you're going to do 5 times better than the one who didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's just one. Plus, a lot of indie games, like if it's been out for a while on PC and then it finally comes to console, it's just like, yeah, I'll still review it, but I know for a fact there's already a lot of stuff out there for it, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get a foothold.
Because people already know about it.
Right. Especially as one that gets mass covered. Yeah, and it is. And thankfully I set my expectations low going into those kind of things, because I'm like, okay, that's not going to do that well. So I don't have to bust my ass as hard on certain reviews, because I know it's not going to do it as well. Not that I half-ass it, I just don't have to be like, okay, I have to put 10 hours in today on this. I can put in 5-6 hours and then be like, I'll finish it tomorrow. It's not going to hurt it.
That's one of the good things about setting your standards low. You'll easily exceed your expectations.
Low.
Yeah, and then the other thing is when it sucks the opposite. When it's like, this video is going to do great for me. Why does it have like 200 views? Like, why is it poking it? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, did it die before it even got out the gate? But yeah, like that's kind of my motivation now at this point is subscription numbers and just total views, and trying to get that overall view-wise and revenue-wise up.
Yeah, writing guides is very tricky like that too. Like there are no good reason that some guides don't sell. We can't figure them out. It's an analogy, Gregory. Like you'd be surprised that some games.
You want to hear some bad guides?
Like the Souls games, they just don't sell for some reason. You'd think they would. Some things like Mordor.
That's one series you would think would sell,
and they don't.
Because I mean, first of all, those are hard games. Second of all, there's lots of hidden items and different choices you can make. I understand.
And then something like Final Fantasy VII, when they released it on the PS4, you know, we just got a guide out for it a few months earlier, and for some reason it sold like hotcakes. 15-year-old game. Did fine.
Huh.
So.
I mean, did it have the way to get the trophy strats, I assume, in it? Then,
yeah.
I mean, that'd
like,
be the only thing I could think of.
The
hardest one, and that's the Barret. Yeah.
But see, that wasn't actually added until later. Because I wrote it based on the PC version, and then it was already selling really well before I could even add that in there. So, lots of hit and miss with, trying to figure out what YouTube videos will work. Like another example, I did Vault-Tec Workshop came out, right? And I posted on Twitch because I could not figure out for a few hours how everything snapped together, how it all worked. And I figured it out, and I was like, people might actually want to know this. Because it's not self-explanatory. It's kind of weird how you get things to build. And so I did a Twitch stream, and like 2 people watched. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I did the stream, so I might as well put it on YouTube for posterity's sake. And then it got, like 4,000 hits there, and I was like, okay, well, I guess people liked it. So it's just...
Oh yeah, there's sometimes when you put something up and it just really, I sit there and I'm like, why did this do? Well, okay, for all my reviews, my review that has done the best of all my reviews is 7 Days to Die. And it's, it's a game that I'm not a fan of at all, but the point was the PS4 version was absolutely a broken mess out the gate. And for some reason, maybe because I was the first one to get it up, but that's gotten more views for me as a review than any of my other reviews by double.
So that's that survival game where you have to like build a base and survive repeated zombie onslaughts?
Not die for 7 days or something.
Am I remembering that one correctly?
Yeah, every 7 days a horde of zombies attacks, and you have to be prepared within that 7 days. The problem is the combat in it is awful. The building is not very intuitive. There's other crafting games out there, but it has a large following on PC, and it's an early access game on PC. But it came out physically with a disc and everything on PS4. Wow. So I gave the game a hard time because I'm like, this ain't early access now. If it's on a physical disc, if it's on the PS4, and it does not say anywhere on the box or in the description that it's early access, well, guess what? It's not early access then. Yeah. That is a full-price product, and I'm going to judge it as a full-base game. So when the servers kept crashing, when my save got corrupted, when glitches kept happening and things made absolutely no sense, like there's this heat thing where you can overheat, and I'm sitting there in like water in the game, and I'm still overheating to death, and I have no clothes on, and my character's still overheating. I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what is wrong with this game? And I gave it a score based on all the glitches and all the problems with it, not on its gameplay necessarily, because I'm not into those kind of games anyway. And I wasn't even going to do the review, but I played it for a while, and my girlfriend at that time was like, do the review anyway. I was like, I don't know if I should, just because I'm not really a big fan of these kind of games. She was just like, just do it based on all the glitches and problems it has. Put that out there. So I did, and that's the one that does well. I'm like, great. So a review I absolutely hate is the one, of course, that's done the most views. Amazing.
Yeah, when you print a disc, it's not early access. It's a retail game based on an early access game.
Right.
That's
I can go into GameStop and buy this game.
Yeah, it has to work at that point.
But I still get people commenting on it, over a year later, just like, it was still early access, or you judge it. I was like, it's not. Also, people this is the PS4 review. You're basing it and saying it's great on PC. It wasn't, they don't even pay attention. I even have in the thing, it's 7 Days to Die PS4 review. Like, this isn't the Steam version, guys. Like, I'm not reviewing that. Like, if you didn't play this version, then you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love it when people will defend games that run really poorly, and they're like, well, my SLI 1080 rig runs it fine. It's like, yeah, well, if you have a $4,000 computer, maybe you can brute force it into operating, but for the vast majority of gamers, it runs like crap.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I stay away a little bit from PC reviews in general, because I'm not a PC guy. I don't care about numbers. As soon as numbers come involved, I turn off. My brain just shuts off. So like, oh, well, this has a blah blah processor and a blah blah gigs of RAM and blah blah this and blah blah. I'm just like, you lost me at the first number that you said, whatever that was. To me, as a gamer, I care about playing games. You know, I want the game to run well. I want to enjoy the game. If it runs well on my PS4, that's what I care about. And that's why I've always liked console. People are like, why do you like console so much more than PC? And it's simple. I take disc, I put disc in system, I play game.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
I don't have to worry about settings. I don't have to worry about settings. I don't have to try to configure my controller to work specifically for that game, because there's always problems with like certain controllers. Like I have multiple controllers for my PC. Sometimes ones work, sometimes ones don't. Sometimes I have to do the extra mile of configuring it, and it's just like that's a turnoff. Like I don't feel like doing that. I just want to play the game.
Yep.
I will say there are some games that are meant for PC though, that they will try to bring to consoles.
Well, like real-time strategy is a good example.
Well, like MMOs and...
Well, yeah, no, there's, and I agree with that. Like, there's definitely genres. Like, I will always play, like, my go-to games, people always ask, well, why don't you like mine? You know, I don't like games that don't really have a direction as much, and that's the reason I never really got into Minecraft. But my go-to for, like, just relaxing games are simulation games like The Sims. I wouldn't want to play that on a console. I played the old Sims on consoles. It was terrible. Like, I like my Sims game. I like to just waste an hour or two messing around with my virtual families and doing all kinds of weird, stupid stuff. And I play a lot of text-based simulator games like that. Like, I want those on my PC. I've always liked real-time strategies on my PC. I've being Warcraft fan forever. But, yeah, it's like, but a lot of other genres, they work fine on both. It's like, I don't want to have to worry about, oh, I have to worry about these numbers, I have to worry about if my card's up to date, I have to worry about this or that or whatever it may be. You know, and that point out also by doing it, that just stays out of the argument. That way, if people want to yell at me, it's like, well, it's running on PS4. The only issue I run now into is, of course, the Pro. You know, I don't have the money for a Pro.
Well, you should play it on Pro.
The money on.
Yeah, well, no, it should work on PS4.
Well, that's what I got on with. I did Last Guardian. I reviewed Last Guardian. I ripped it apart for its awful frame rate on console on PS4 at launch before it patched. Now I think they've patched it. It's better now. So, and I'm not playing it again. I refuse. But at launch, oh my god! Like anyone defending that game's like frame rate performance on PS4, I was just like, did you guys play this game? Like, seriously, it's running at points of, like, 2 frames a second. And that's the only time I ever care about frame rate. Is, like, if it hinders my gameplay, that's when I care. Yeah. If it's 30 solid, 60 solid, great. But if it dips from 30 to 2...
yeah.
That's when I have my issue.
I think people are awfully sensitive about... Well, they protest that they're awfully sensitive to frame rate these days, and I don't see it. Like... If the game, if it actually affects me playing the game, then I care. But most of the time, I don't see it. People are like, oh, Fallout 4, it's, what was that? What was that expansion, Greg? I want to say Point Lookout, but I know that was wrong.
Far Harbor.
Far Harbor, there you go. They complained about that frame rate because of the mist, and I was like, okay, so it chugs a little. It never really affected my playing of it. I mean, if it goes from 30 to 25, I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah, no, same. It has to be really noticeably different. Like when it dips to that, like for example,
like the Telltale games.
Oof.
Those are noticeable.
I was going to use, for example, and it's an awful game for when it launched and all that stuff, whatever, but Assassin's Creed Unity, when I would play it and it would go from 30 to 0 and literally freeze, I was like, yeah, this is a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
All the other stuff I can deal with, but I can't move right now. I'm literally frozen and the frame rate is 0, and then it would go to like 1 frame. So like it wasn't completely broken. I was like, yeah, guys, this isn't good.
Yeah, Ubisoft, thanks a lot for that one.
Well, at least they're not pushing out Assassin's Creed games every year.
They finally stopped.
At least stay away from that. Yeah, well, I mean, finally, right?
Yeah.
They realize
I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, but yeah.
I really liked the
want to
first
be.
2, and then after that, I was kind of like, nah, I'm oversaturated. Like, they need to really update the gameplay and the game engine, because I was playing Black Flag, and I think they finally made the environments too complex for their climbing. Because I was sitting there trying to climb stuff, and just trying to navigate the ships and climb the masts and jump from thing to thing was an absolute nightmare for me. So maybe
the worst for me
sucked.
was, well, like 4 was actually my personal favorite, but it was mostly the pirate ship part of it that brought me in. Like I felt it did pirates better than most games have ever, like even full-blown pirate games have done. But for me, especially, was like with 3. That's when I started to lose a little bit of faith. 3's mission progression and there's a ship mission.
2 cities.
But like you have to like take over 2 ships in Assassin's Creed 3 in some mission, and it was like the worst, tedious thing I've ever done, and I was just like, oh my god. But I've suffered through all of them regardless. There's only like 1 or 2 Assassin's Creed games at this point I still haven't beaten, and that's like the DS one.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't beat all the Chronicles yet.
So here's a controversy that just won't go away. If they actually decided to push a female protagonist in an Assassin's Creed game, not, half and half like Evie Fry, this is your character, it's a female, get over it. Your response to that would be... Well, yeah, but I mean like a main AAA game. People will write that off.
My whole thing is, it doesn't matter. I play a game to play the game. I've been playing Tomb Raider since PS1. I've never given a crap whether or not it's a female. I love Metroid. Like the fact that she's female, yeah, okay, Metroid's a little bit of a skewed thing because of the suit and all, but like, it doesn't matter. I care about the character itself. If the character's a good character, male or female, then it's a good character. I don't hold up of like, I'm not going to play this game because you're a female. That's the reason why we're never going to see like a Grand Theft Auto game, like a main game, like with a main story that's going to have a female character, because there's just too many people out there that would hate it.
Well,
no,
yeah,
I don't think there is.
You can do all these horrible things to the males, but you do it to the females, you're going to get lambasted.
That is actually true. That is true.
And Grand Theft Auto, are you kidding me?
But see, I think gamers...
that's what's going to happen.
I think gamers largely wouldn't care, honestly.
Gamers largely wouldn't care.
No, well, they shouldn't. I did get I forget what it was. There was some game, I don't remember what it was, but I still got one guy who was just like, I won't play that because you play as a female. And I was just like, really? It's a great game. I can't remember. I don't know if it was one of the newer Tomb Raiders or whatever it was. Like, this is still a great game, and you're literally only reason you won't play it is because you're a female character, and it just is like, okay. Whatever, I can't. It's like that argument just makes no sense to me. Like, a good game's a good game.
See, I have not... I've seen people say it, right, on forums and boards and stuff like that, but when it comes to someone that I actually know, that I've actually talked to, that actually you can have a coherent, intelligent conversation with, I have not heard a single person stick to that, point. They might go, I don't like this or I don't like that, but they're not, well, no, it's female, so I'm not playing it. So I wonder if this issue is actually real or if it's just relegated to... trolling on the internet. I'm kind of inclined towards that belief.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could be. Most of my friends... Surprisingly, I only have a handful of all being gaming my whole life, I only actually have a handful of friends that are actual gamers. Wow. But yeah, no, I've never heard that come up. Yeah, surprisingly, you think... Like, it's one of those things that... I don't have a ton of friends that actually game all the time. It's like more casual for most of them.
That is kind of strange. But you said your family dropped off too.
After being on YouTube for so long, you'd think you'd have met all sorts of people that do the same thing you do.
Yeah, I've met a lot of other YouTubers, but like there's very few that I could be like, hey, I have like their phone number or something. I could be like, hey, what's up? There's just, I don't have a whole lot. That's like also one of the things to keep growing and try to get into some of those inner circles, because that's the other thing with YouTubers is they have a lot of inner circles and they don't let many people in unless you are considered whatever,
Now, I mean, I can see that. I'm not in that culture really at all, but I can see easily through like their various YouTube videos and their guest spots and all this other shit that lots of these people come off as, I'm not going to work with you unless you bring something for me to the table.
I mean,
yeah, no, for sure.
Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, and that's exactly how it is. Everyone's afraid of losing their damn spot. Is that no one wants to work with smaller channels. And my whole thing is not that I'm against working with smaller channels at all, because I'm not. I just also want to make sure that I feel like whatever you're doing is a good reflection of what I'm doing. I don't want to work with somebody who's like, oh yeah, everybody go check out this channel, and then like it's them recording, their TV with a webcam or something like that, and they're talking, and there's, babies crying all throughout the background, and like there's no,
Yeah, Greg.
No, if it's
I've kept my babies quiet, more or less.
If it's like a personal friend or whatever, and they want me to just put it on like Facebook or something, I just whatever. But as far as like collabing and doing a lot of stuff with, I don't have if someone has 1,000 subscribers, well, that's potentially at least a few that aren't subscribed to me. I could do something with, try to gain some of that onto my side, whatever it may be. Because that's the whole point of doing collabs. But I've always said if I actually had a big enough presence where people listen to me, I'd be shouting out channels all the damn time. And there's a few YouTubers that do, but they just don't do it very often. But there are a few that do. It'd be nice for them to do one for me.
Well, I mean, YouTube is kind of segregated just because of how it's built up. Like, they all have their different networks and whatnot, so it's just that kind of system builds those divides and those in-groups.
Yeah, because even though it's YouTube, you're right. Everyone has their own network. Everyone's with somebody, and they're only doing. Some people will only work with people within their own network, so it's just like that. That affects things as it is.
I mean, there's also probably a practical reason for it too. Like, if I came up to you in my YouTube channel with 400 people and said, "Hey, you want to do something?" The immediate conclusion that you would probably draw is, "Yeah, this guy sees my numbers, sees his numbers, and thinks he's going to gain an advantage from it." And also, if somebody has that little presence, it's either because they haven't been around long, so they're looking for that quick boost, or they haven't put in the work, and they're looking for that quick boost. So I can kind of see the argument for why you just, look at their net counts and not waste your time.
Yeah, especially with someone that, like, let's just say, that has less than 1,000 subscribers. If I see somebody with, if someone does talk about that or brings it up or whatever, or even other people that have just, comment on a video of mine, if I see they have a certain number, because I have, there's little additions you can get to your browser, so you can kind of see more information about videos and stuff like that. Basically, on my comments, I can see not only the person's name, but also what their subscriber count is. So that's just a little bit of more information. I can be like, oh, well, that person has a decent following, and let me just check out their channel briefly and see what they've done and why they have their thing and whether or not I should maybe reach out or whatever as far as doing stuff. But yeah, no, if someone who I feel like is just doing it for that reason, then no, of course. Like, I'm not gonna put effort in just to help you unless, but there are smaller channels where I see, like, you do decent quality work. Why are you getting nothing? Maybe I can do something to help. I would love to be able to do more of that. And I wish more bigger YouTubers would, but they just are so focused. They're afraid that if they link to somebody else, then they're going to lose their viewership, and those people aren't going to come back, and they're now with that person. Which I've had happen on me on Twitch. I've literally had it where I've linked to other people, hosted or rated other people, and then all of a sudden, some people in my chat, like, they just stay in that. My favorite thing on Twitch is now you can friend people on Twitch, and you can see what people are doing. Like, I can see everyone on my friends list and what they're currently doing if they're online, like whose stream they're watching or whatever it may be. And somebody who was here at my stream, like, every day for whatever, and it's like, you're watching that, and that's just their thing. That happens. But it's so few and far between it happens. I don't know why people are so worried that they're going to lose all of a sudden all their numbers because they shout at some smaller channel out. Like, it's not going to happen.
Like, frankly, I'll shout something out if I like it. And that's pretty much the only motivating factor I have. I don't have the pressure of having a following to actually, throw weight around when it comes to that. But if I like it, might as well let other people I know that I like it, because that's kind of the whole point of social media, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I wish more people had the mindset of that also. One thing I deal with is trying to convince people to help grow the channel. Things like Twitter, Facebook, whatever it may be social media-wise, you sharing my videos on there help? And they'll be like, well, I only have like 1 follower. I'm like, it does still help, especially if you're on Twitter and retweet, because it picks up hashtags, and thus more retweets on one particular thing, it's going to potentially be seen by more people. Even, yes, that one person may see it on yours, but that may help boost it so that's a higher priority on other people's walls, so other people will see it.
And that's still one more follower than would have seen it otherwise.
Oh, and that's true too. Like one follower, like one other person still helps, but like trying to convince people of that is like pulling teeth to the point that I give up on it a lot of times. Because I'll get asked constantly, well, what can I do to help? And I'll be like, well, of course, there's, you know, my Patreon, and there's watching the videos without an ad block, which is the biggest thing. I can't stand. I don't use ad block on YouTube, because I like helping out not only, you know, all the channels that I like watching, and I want them to keep doing content. They don't see it as that. People see it as if you use, you know, ads or blah 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 blah, and I should get my entertainment for free and not have to deal with ads and all that shit. But at the same time, like, okay, if you're gonna use ad block, if you're gonna do this, if you're not gonna be on Patreon, if you're not gonna directly donate, sharing helps. Every share helps. And there's just little minor things. Just share whatever videos you like of mine, just share them on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your Instagram, on your Tumblr, on your whatever the hell. I don't use Reddit, unfortunately. That's one thing that's a detriment to myself, because I'm sure if I was on the right Reddits, I could gain some other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to give money directly, and I can understand. It's an investment, and there's a lot of people going around doing this stuff, so, you know, money's always tight in a lot of cases.
Always, and I get it. And I've always said to somebody because I get the people that do donate, and then they're like, I can't donate right now because of blah. I'm like, dude, take care of yourself.
Don't donate.
You're not going to worry, don't worry about me. I will somehow find a way and make it. But it's like, you know, just then there's the other side of things where people are just like, they want to get everything for free. They're like, they've never donated, they have ad block on, and then they want to make demands all the time on videos. Do this, change this part of your videos, review this game, do this video right now or I'm unsubscribing. It's like,
do people actually say that?
I've had it multiple occasions.
Oh wow.
You'd be surprised how much of a cesspool YouTube is.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's an absolute cluster.
Like, at least once a week, I will get somebody commenting on a video, and they will say, like my channel, and I'll like yours. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. You have like 10 people, and you're producing crap content, and the first thing you do on my channel is go, hey, like me, and I'll like you back. No, I don't care enough.
What? That's an immediate. I ignore it. I don't say anything because I don't want to I'm trying not to start anything, but I'm not doing that. Like sub for sub is the dumbest thing ever. People think that works. It's like you realize that if you're doing sub for sub, yes, I may be subscribed to you, but I'm never gonna click your videos.
Exactly.
And so what number is that going to help? Oh, the fact you have 10 subscribers instead of 9, but you're only getting 9 views. Or you're only getting 1 view because the rest were sub for sub. So what does that really do for you?
Yeah, and that's me with my following, so I can only imagine when it gets higher than that, like how bad it can get. So.
Oh, it's a daily basis. And I actually one of the few, I've gotten commented on that I'm one of the few that responds to a lot of comments. I respond almost instantly because I keep it on my phone at all times. So even if I'm not on my computer, if I see a comment come in, if I can respond, I am immediately going to go ahead and do so. Only when I'm sleeping, basically, is when I'm not going to be able to have access to my YouTube. So I try to keep as engaged as possible with people, but then some people are just complete and utter assholes. Also, the other thing that bugs me, this is therapeutic, so I'm going to rant about it real quick.
Go on. Rants are good for business.
They are, and some of my best Twitch streams are usually when I go on a rant. But one thing that bugs me on the internet in general, this is the internet in general, this is people, all that stuff, is if someone says something like, it's hard, trying to think of an exact example, but basically... Okay, here's a good one. Okay, Emily Wants to Play is this awful horror game that I absolutely hate. It was made solely to copy 5 Nights at Freddy's and get YouTubers to stream at it like a 5-year-old. That's the entire purpose of this game. And I gave it a bad review because it's a bad game. It's not scary. It's just BS. So someone posts on there, you're completely wrong. You know, this is the scariest game ever. And my thing is, this is why it isn't scary. Now tell me why it is scary to you. and they either don't give a response, or they give something like, "You're wrong. It's scary. Blah blah blah. It's scary because it's scary." Well, that's not a reason. Or something else, and then if I respond back saying, "Hey, I'm still waiting for that reason," then they're like, "Why are you so butthurt about this?" I'm like, "I'm not. I just want you to present an argument.
Man.
You're not presenting one. You want to make a statement such as, 'I am wrong,' well, present why I'm wrong, and you're refusing to do so because you don't have an argument." But, like, they want to throw out immediately, like, "You're butthurt." I'm like, no, I'm just having a conversation. I enjoy debating people, which people don't get either. Like, I love to debate people. Like, if someone comes to my chat and is like, it's like, "I love Nintendo," and I'm like, "I hate Nintendo," which I don't, but, you know, just to say that, that'll start a conversation back and forth of, "Here's my argument why I don't like Nintendo. Here's your argument why," and I like going back and forth, and some people are like, "Why are you being so butthurt about, you know, Nintendo?" And I'm just like, that's not the case. It's just I like to have a debate. Present me with an argument.
This guy is basically me, Greg. You realize that, right?
I'm realizing that more and more. Yes.
Especially with reviews when I do them, and people are like, they disagree with the review, which is, you know, everyone has their own opinion, and I always say with games, I'm like, "I hated this game, whatever it may be. I hope you like it if you buy it, because you wasted, you know, you spent money on it. I hope you enjoyed it, because, like, that sucks to buy a game that you're not going to like."
Because you spend money. Yeah.
You know, I want you to enjoy it. It's not against it, but, like, if you're gonna say my review is wrong and this game is great, present me with the reasons why it's great. Why did you like it? Why is this game better than what I'm saying it is? You know, like Last Guardian, for example, I gave a 5. But, you know, like, give me the arguments why. Was the frame rate was awful? This was awful. This was, like, what made you love it so much? And some people do. Some people will come back, "Well, it had so much heart, so much character. The Trico was amazing. It was so beautiful to look at." You know, at least give me something. Even if it's something I disagree with, at least give me something why you loved it. So then I know, why do people like something that I don't get? Like Minecraft. I understand why people like it. I don't, but at least I get it.
Trico had an amazing asshole, and I love that
enough.
kind of realism in a game.
Well, he did. That he did.
Greg still will not buy
I didn't even play that game.
He will not buy that my review of Final Fantasy 15 is legitimate. He still thinks I'm trolling.
I just don't believe you. I've not played the game, but you are such a downer.
6.5 out of 10.
Fathomably
I'm very comfortable with that review. I'm very comfortable.
And Final Fantasy 15 for me got one of my highest reviews scores I've ever given.
It's subjective. And see,
we
could have a conversation, right, about Final Fantasy 15, and it's still fresh in my mind, so we can at some point go point for point on why you liked it, why I didn't like it. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're fucking adults. I can realize that people can like shit I don't like.
Exactly,
and that's basically half the genres in games.
No one understands. No one understands that reasoning, like, at all.
You know, he's like a weird mix between the two of us. Okay, here's a good question for you, Mark. Do you like narrative-driven games?
Yes, very much so.
You have to be a lot more
something like Steins Gate or the Telltale series, or
I love the Telltale games. Walking Dead, Telltales are some of my favorites.
Okay, yeah. See there, Nathan.
Have you ever played Planescape Torment? I have to ask this.
No, I have not. I have not played that.
Because, see, Greg will go on, "Oh, you hate story in games. You're a Neanderthal. You're just dead inside." I'm like, have you played Planescape Torment?
You're dead inside.
This is the game that I would give the best review for in terms of pure story. And I asked Greg, and he's like, "No, I've never played it." And I'm like, "Well, if you love story-based games, why don't you play this one?" Well, I can't play them all, and then I'll see him playing fucking Overwatch again for the 18th time this day. And it's like, okay, well...
18th, is that it?
You only have so many hours, so...
Yeah, that's
I'm only
true.
underselling by about 6. So... But, I mean, it's just
I wish
styles.
I had time to get into something like that anymore. That's the other thing, too, with some games like MMOs. Like, I'll get friends that are like, "Hey, you should play this MMO with me," or play something like Overwatch with me, and I'm like, I don't have the time to learn it.
I want to get something done.
I have to, like, I can play Overwatch for 12 hours a day, or I can get 3 reviews done and get, you know, something done. Now, you know, like, that's unfortunately the way things work with me, and it sucks sometimes. So I can't get into games like that. I used to play Left 4 Dead like it was going out of style, but
yeah,
which it did.
I mean, some things just take too much time.
Yeah, like
Yeah, especially games that require learning how things work, like a game like an Overwatch, learning the character, learning the ins and outs, learning what works and doesn't work as far as getting better. Something like Left 4 Dead, learning how that game works, like instead of just running ahead or learning. I play a lot of versus mode, so it was like learning how each monster works, what's the best spots for them on every map, that kind of stuff. I just don't have the unfortunate time to do that anymore, so I'm much more of, oh, this game's 2 hours long? Great. This is going to be an easy day for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some
I
games,
can see that a bit.
the skill and loot gap in MMOs and Overwatch, it's such a time sink. I never had time for stuff like that, unfortunately. I'll spend 100 hours on a really good RPG, but it's not like if I get to it late or I take a few days off, I'm lost. No, I can get right back to it and I'm fine. So that's just, everybody has different amounts of time they can devote to something. If you do a full-time job and you have, 4 hours a day, maybe, or let's be more realistic, 10, 15 hours a week, then something like Overwatch is fantastic for you because you can work on it and chip away at it and keep up with it, and it can be a hobby game for a few months. But, that's why it's a great thing. There's so much diversity in games. Everyone has a choice that fits what they have the time for. So, good stuff, too. But we should consider doing that sometime. Just the Final Fantasy 15 debate. I can argue.
Oh, trust me, I've had it many times with other
it's a dead
friends
subject.
and stuff.
Okay.
It's not dead. It's just I get why people don't like it. I totally understand why people don't like it, and I know why I loved it as much as I did. Which is usually for the reasons why they didn't like it.
Okay, so I have to get this out. Prompto. He is a horrible character. Do you agree or disagree?
As far as gameplay or as far as his story?
His story, and I just found him insufferably annoying.
He's one of those ones in a game, he's probably my least favorite of the four. But at the same time, he has a few moments that are not part of main quest that made me like him a bit more. But he never developed, I think, properly in the main quest as much as he could have, and that's his detriment. That's the worst thing about him, is he doesn't get a chance to shine as much in the main plot as he does in some of just the small little interactions at save points or whatever it may be that provide more backstory and his depth of character, whereas the other ones I feel like got more of that in their main story.
Well, that's probably also to do with the fact that there's DLC coming out. I don't know if they just didn't have time to develop it or what the case is, but I'm sure a lot of these characters will be getting more of a showcase when their DLC is released individually.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, and that's the other thing too with games nowadays with DLC. It's
that's crazy. I mean, like he mentioned, I have not played Final Fantasy 15. I almost feel like I am the better for that, because clearly they are not done crafting their story.
I don't think so.
I mean, what was that chapter they changed, Nathan? 7, 9,
13.
Something like that.
They haven't changed it yet, but they're going to redo it, yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what
game,
that freaking means, but apparently when I get around to the game, now it's going to be better.
Well, yeah, let's not get into
useless corridors
too
but
deep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They drop a lot of narrative threads. They bring things up out of nowhere, and the game clearly went through development hell.
Yeah, it's the biggest problem with Final Fantasy 15 is the rush. The last end of the game is so rushed and things kind of come out of nowhere that it made it disjointed, where it could have been a very smooth and well-told narrative. But it feels like it goes from it's going 50 miles an hour, and all of a sudden it's going 100 by the time you make it to the end.
I thought it was a really good game up until Chapter 4. I really liked the open world, just exploring things.
I loved it. That's the reason why I liked it as much as I did, was the open world for sure.
And then after that, the story kind of took over in large part. I had done most of the side quests, and that's all that was left was the story, and I was like, wow, they really just
I got the trophy for getting all the side quests done before I had even hit Chapter 5 or 6 or whatever it was. I would only continue the plot unless if I ran out of side quests to do. That was the only way I was continuing the plot, was it forced me basically. But I can agree at parts of it. I enjoyed the side stuff in the open world probably more so than the main story for sure.
Yeah.
I also love stuff like hunting and stuff, so that helped. I like the hunts. I wish there was trophies for hunting other than one. That was a big downer for me, but yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of content, but it wasn't all given equal treatment, and a lot of it was something you never really needed to indulge in. So, I don't know. They should have really done something aside from adamantoids that really forced you to climb the ranks of the hunting, but
yeah, that's basically it. Is that like that's basically the only thing?
Yeah, and we could probably talk about Final Fantasy 15 for a good long time because it's a very polarizing game. You either seem to love it or hate it. So.
Oh, for sure. That seems to be the general consensus with it.
And I was forced to spend like 2 months with the game, and it like I said, I gave it a 6.5, which Greg thinks is me just saying it's the worst game ever. But it's really not. It's just below average in a lot of respects. But if you have to sit there, and I think I ended up with like 400 or 500 hours on that damn thing, writing the guide for it. Any game, even The Witcher 3, which I thought was fantastic. If you spend that much time with a game in that short of period of time, you're done. You don't want to play it again ever.
Yeah, I know that feeling quite well. And I mean, sometimes it ends up being with a review, especially it can end up hurting things. People think that like I'm gonna all of a sudden give a game a bad review because I played it for 30 hours in a couple days, which I don't. I take out points at key things when it does something completely wrong. I'm not gonna have my schedule be a dictator of whatever. But personally, yeah, I'm not gonna go back after certain games. Like I'm never gonna play I Am Setsuna again. I spent 30 hours in like 2 days playing that game to get that review done. I'm not going to play that game again. But I didn't take. That's not the reason I gave it a low score. Lower score.
Yeah. So, what other games are coming out this year that you're really looking forward to? Like, I know Breath of the Wild. We already went over that. But is there anything else like Red Dead 2?
Red Dead 2 is my biggest game. Like whenever that comes out.
Persona 5, maybe.
The only problem with Persona 5 is and I love 3 and 4, but now with what I'm doing, I don't know if I'm going to have the time. That's the issue with RPGs. I still haven't finished Star Ocean. I started that, and I never got very far. And then the last Final Fantasy 15 is like one of the only RPG-esque games that I've actually been able to spend enough time with to do a lot in since Witcher. Witcher 3 was the only other one that I spent a lot of time with. It's just like it's such a amount of time you have to put into it. I run out of the ability to do it. But like, yeah, no, Red Dead is one of those ones for sure that I'm really looking forward to. I know there's more. People always ask me like, what am I looking forward to? And I kind of like, because I get so many games on a weekly basis, I kind of have like a very small window of time I'm even like logically thinking about as far as what's on the upcoming radar as far as game. Mass Effect looks pretty good. I've liked most of the other Mass Effects, so I will be checking that out. My big game for this year already was Resident Evil, because I'm a huge fan of that series, so that was a big one for me.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that's the first guide I wrote this year was Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, it was
very fun game.
First game in probably years that I beat more than once in the span of like a couple of days. Like I beat it 4 times within a weekend, and I loved every second of it for the most part.
I did not expect Resident Evil 7 to be as good as it was. Like
I was starting to hate it.
Yeah, I was on the party chat with Nathan when it was going on, and I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The first maybe hour of that game is just so intense. Like the beginning, by the far and away, is the best part of the game.
Oh, it is. Well, to me, like the only, and I don't want to spoil much, but the only part when it gets to the second half, where the end, when you go to the boat, that's when things die. To me, like it starts to slow down, like because that whole first beginning part up until then is so good. I think there's great moments throughout that entire thing. Like just everything is great. And it just, unfortunately, it starts off so strong, it slowly falls as it goes farther in, but it's still, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's hard to be that strong for that long.
Yeah.
So, Jared wants to know
if they do kind of...
if Yooka-Laylee is on your radar at all.
Yeah, it is. I'm one of the many, many Kickstarter people on that one.
Oh, okay.
So that's a big one for me. The Crash remakes, or reboot, whatever it is, the trilogy, that's a big one for me. Because I'm a huge PS1 era Crash Bandicoot fan. Another game I'm looking forward to is Dragon Quest Heroes 2.
Nice.
Because I'm a big Dragon Quest fan, plus I'm a big Dynasty Warriors fan, so that combo for 1 I loved, and so I'm looking for more of that for 2. I just hope the missions are a little bit better than they were in the first one. East 7, or East, yeah, 7 or 8, whatever one is coming, 8. That one, that's up there. Sonic Mania, I just want to see if they flub it up. I'm seeing what they're going to do with that. Tekken 7. I'm a big Tekken fan, so like Tekken and Street Fighter are my 2 go-to fighters, so that's up there as well.
So Dragon Quest XI, I presume, is probably a pretty big blip on your radar.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where I will spend the time. I will, whatever dedicated time I have to set to it, it will be played and it will be beaten. I'm trying, like, I try to keep that minimum, like Final Fantasy 15, so I don't like waste weeks. But I mean, I was still able to beat Final Fantasy 15 in like 4 days.
Yeah, it wasn't that long to actually beat it.
Yeah, especially once I got out of side questing. Once I got my trophy for side questing, then it just was like boom, 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 boom. I was done. You know.
Yeah.
But there's not many games where I can spend 30, 40 hours in. But Dragon Quest XI, that's one of them. Ni no Kuni 2, when that drops, I will probably be all over. But yeah, those are some of the big ones.
So I'm mostly a WRPG guy, but Dragon Quest is the exception. It warms my black heart, I have to say. The Dragon Quest series does. So I'm hoping to write a guide on Dragon Quest XI and get an excuse to professionally spend 100 hours, a whole month on it at least.
There's not much that makes you not dead inside.
Dragon Quest is the only thing that prevents me from becoming Scrooge. It really is. I can't help myself. I got the Dragon Quest 8 on the 3DS, and I fired it up, and you hear that initial battle music, and you're just like, this is just great stuff. How can you hate it?
Yeah, Dragon Quest is one of those series I've been a big fan of since, like, forever. It wasn't my first RPG I ever beat, but it was right up there. And then when I discovered the games we never got for so long, that was how I got into import gaming. Was like, oh my god, there's other Dragon Quest games, like, why didn't we ever get them? And then I got like 5, and 5 became like my favorite in the whole series.
Now, here's a question. You play a lot of games, and people send you codes to things, and you usually prefer, I guess, shorter indie games that you can get reviews up for in a timely manner. Do you have time to vet all these games, or are there games that you just go into completely blind?
There's a lot of games I go in completely blind or not. Like, I don't watch trailers usually. But yeah, and the big name titles, of course, I'm like, I know about. But as far as the indie games go, a lot of times I kind of go in knowing like, oh, that kind of looks cool from the picture. Sure, I'll go ahead and do it. And I don't have any expectations or any opinion going in. Like a few ones I've been doing recently, especially. Like Vaccine, for example, was, even though the developer I have a little bit of an issue with, but anyway, the game itself, I was just like, I saw the graphics being like it's basically a PS1 looking game, like it looks like a PS1 game intentionally, and so I was just like, that kind of looks cool, let me play it, and then that's went into it that way.
So has that ever backfired majorly for you? Like gone in, played a bit of the game, realized just how bad or how much you didn't want to play it anymore, immediately regretted life choices.
Oh yeah, no, there's been a few reviews I've done of games where I'm just like, I am not, and it's not necessarily sometimes against the game itself as far as design is concerned, it just may not be my cup of tea, so then I'm like, it's a real struggle to keep going. And I never know when that's going to happen. For example, like just 2 games that I just did like last week or the week before that were very similar as far as setup is a game called I.O. and another one called Fly Wrench. And they
Fly
finally,
Range.
they both came to PS4. Fly Range finally came to PS4, and IO came to PS4 as well. And they're kind of set up very similarly with the very fast-paced puzzle-solving action, that kind of stuff. It's like, and I fell in love with Fly Wrench, and then the IO, it was like, I don't like this as much. It became like it was a big struggle to keep playing it to get everything I need done for the review and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's been plenty, and there's also sometimes when I get into a game, I'm just like, this is a lot bigger scope than I necessarily thought it was going to be.
So let me ask a question, kind of opposite what Greg asked. Have you ever played a game or gone into something blind or having kind of a negative disposition towards something, and then you played it and you're like, holy crap, this is freaking amazing?
I wouldn't say there's a game I other than like some big name title. Like, the only times I ever feel like I'm gonna like hate a game is if I go in as a big name title and I have like, I fear that I'm gonna dislike it. Like Resident Evil 7, being a big fan of that series, I was afraid I was gonna dislike 7, but I tried to go in as optimistic as I could. But one game that I went in blind that blew me away was Valley. Valley was amazing. I loved Valley, and that game did not get enough credit or enough look when it came out last year.
Is it on Steam, I'm guessing?
PS4.
Oh, PS4, okay. I'll have to go.
Yeah,
look at
it was
that.
by the same. Interestingly enough, it was by the same developer that did Slender: The Arrival. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to be because it's not but Valley's not a horror game at all. But for what it is, it instantly became. It's so fun to just jump and run in that game because basically you're a guy who has like you get these legs, mechanical legs, that you get to then do like really fast speed, and you can jump really, really high, and you get like a thing to grapple hook, and you can swing over large gaps or attach yourself to train tracks, and then you actually ride the train tracks with the legs, so you go like extremely fast through these tunnels and stuff like that. And it's not a very long game, it's a very indie game, but it looks pretty for what it is. I'm not saying it's like Witcher 3 or Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that, but it was very pretty looking for what it was. And it kind of caught me out of nowhere, and I fell in love with it. And I ended up giving it a 9, which is the highest scores I've ever given it, or 9s. I haven't given it a 10 yet.
So you're holding
But,
the 10 as like sacred, right?
Yeah, there's very few games in the history of gaming. It would have to be something that's near perfect. And I would say that very few games have ever been true 10s.
Yeah, I have trouble giving out 9s or 10s as well.
Yeah, I try not even to give that many 9s unless I really love the game, because I want my opinion to matter. Like I hate the whole 7 being average thing. Like I'm kind of against the whole 7 being an average game thing. I look at more because I like the scale of 1 to 10 with 5 being in the middle, and I've had arguments many times with people over this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so for my opinion, it's I judge games pretty harshly, whereas things can go awry, minor things will be that's immediately a step down. And it's not a negative, but it's there's so few games to be a perfect or a 10. It has to be close to perfect. It has to have minor imperfections that take it away, but it can't have anything that stands out.
So, give me an example of a 10,
my.
if you can. I have to know what a 10 is on the scale.
Ocarina of Time,
I figured
for
Zelda
its
would be
time
on that.
period. Not now. If Ocarina of Time came out now, no, it wouldn't be a 10. But
Yeah.
for its time period, that's the kind of quality of a game that would be a 10. Even my favorite game of all time, I would have a hard time giving it a 10, and that's The Last of Us is my favorite game ever. And I don't know if I would even give that a 10.
So, have you played Dragon's Dogma? I have to ask. I have to get people's opinions on this.
No, I did not. I have friends that loved it. I never got into it, though.
I thought it was fantastic. For a game that didn't really get that much attention in terms of mainstream, got kind of
It kinda
good
got
reviews,
buried,
but not bad.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I thought it was a great game.
Yeah, unfortunately, with I think other stuff that had come out, it kind of got put to the wayside. But yeah, no, I had a friend that really got into Dragon's Dogma, and he wanted me to get into it, and I was going to whatever, but just never found the time to be able to be okay, now I'm gonna go and do this.
Yeah, Greg's kind
Yeah.
of the same way. I played it, but
It didn't draw me in enough compared to whatever else, and I couldn't even tell you. Right now, I couldn't even tell you what else was out at the time that took my attention away.
Same.
But it didn't beat whatever that was out, you know? Your whole thing about giving out 10s, I find that extremely interesting. I do a lot of reviews myself, but they're not video reviews. They're just text reviews on GameFAQs. And when I say I've done a lot of them, I think I'm 400 plus at this point.
Shoo. I think I have like 4
2005 or so.
So, like when I was in high school, I wrote a couple of reviews for Game FAQs. I'm actually surprised some of those are still up. But yeah, that was like when I did a few reviews for Game FAQs, and that was the first time I ever did a review.
Oh yeah, same here. Actually, I did one in like 2005 and didn't look at it for a year. And you know how they have a page where you can see how many people have read whatever you've written.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back like a year later, and like 4,000 people have read this review, and I'm like, what? I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, people actually read this? Okay, well, maybe I'll write a second one then. And it kind of took off from there. But
right.
yeah, I've handed out several 10s over the years.
He's far more generous than we are.
Quite generous compared to you.
Yeah, well, it's nothing, like, everyone has their opinion, of course, of what's a 10 or what equals a 10, but for me, like I said, I feel like that criteria, especially once I was gaming a lot, especially in the modern era, got older, and I was just like, everyone was giving certain games a 10, and I would play them, I'm like, this is good, like, it's really good, but, like, this was wrong in it, or this was wrong, or it crashed on me, or it froze, or it had this kind of major glitch in it, or quest progression wasn't as great, or it didn't have innovation, or the side quests weren't there, or whatever it may be. There was like these minor things. I was just like, so to me, like, a 10 should be near perfect, because nothing's going to be perfect. There is no perfect game.
Oh, yeah.
But it has
There
to have,
never will
like...
be.
And there never is gonna be, and there needs to be just very, very minor things that would take away from it.
Yeah, like I can think of talking history. I'd probably, in retrospect, give like Super Mario Brothers 3 a 10, because at that time it was just beyond the gold standard of platformers.
I would say that's definitely a 10. The games that also changed things, like whether it be the trendsetter, like. Those kind of games that like have such a lasting appeal or changed everything as far as gaming was concerned would be like the 10s, I would think.
So would you say something like Halo Combat Evolved is in the conversation for a 10? Just considering how it would be. You can talk about FPS before and after.
There. Whether or not I would say 10, I'm not positive, but that's the kind of game I'm talking about, where it has that kind of structure, and some people would argue, because there's, like, I'm not really huge into a lot of the online with shooters or multiplayer with shooters, but I recognize when one is above the rest, for sure, but yeah, no, Halo would be in there. I was trying to think of other ones that would equal that sort of level.
Zelda Link to the Past, I think I'd have to call
innovation.
A 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ocarina of Time...
Yeah.
That just brought the A game out for the N64. Super Mario 64 hit it out of the park for its time. I think Symphony of the Night.
That was really good.
Showed a lot of people, how good Metroidvania games can be.
I would even give Final Fantasy VII a 10.
There was no such thing as a Metroidvania until that.
That is true.
It was just Metroid. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, it has to be those kind of levels of whatever to be like the 10s. And that's why, like, whenever I do finally give that 10, I want it to, like, feel like it meant something. Whether it takes me 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000 reviews, but when it finally happens, that 10 happens, it'll matter. I think it'll have more of an impact at that point, especially as well. Now,
are you ready for the backlash? Because if you give something a 10, everyone's going to be like, oh, you gave this a 10, but not this. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. Of course, of course. Like, there's like, but to me, like, at this point, like, there's so few games I've given a 9 to. I'm surprised I don't get more whatever with them, but I guess people just accept them as 9s. Like, I think in total, I could actually pull it up if I could actually get to it. But like every 10 or every 9 that I've given thus far, it's not many.
Yeah, like I was looking at Metacritic for Horizon Zero Dawn, and I started playing it, and I'm like, I'm not sure it's a 10 or even a 9.
No,
you gave it an 8. I'm like, right now
yeah.
it's sitting at about an 8 for me. So.
As to scroll. I've done. I have to add. I haven't added my reviews for this week, but I've done 190 reviews as of now. I've given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nines. I've given out so far in 190 reviews.
He's a lot strict. You might actually be stricter than me, in all honesty. Because I'll give out some 9s. Like
Definitely,
I thought Stardew Valley was a 9.
stricter than me.
Stardew Valley is one of my
glitches
9s.
And crashing
Okay.
and
Well, then maybe we're not too far off there.
I had such a hard time with that game. I think I gave it a 9 regardless of the hard time I had with that game.
I think you eventually did.
No, I gave it an 8.
It was going to be your
Broke
game of the
my
year,
heart.
and then it...
It
then
was. It honest to goodness was.
Yeah, and then it turned into Doom, was your game of the year.
Yeah. Well, Doom was fantastic.
It was.
Alas.
Doom was. I think I have Doom. Yeah, Doom was one of my 8s. But one of my 9s so far, and I've only been doing reviews since September 2015, so it's not a huge scope. But FF15 was one of my 9s. Resident Evil 7, Stardew Valley, Uncharted 4, Valley, and Witcher 3: Blood and Wine. I gave the expansion a 9 because it's one of the best DLCs that has ever come out, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm currently writing a guide on that. I thought
Yeah,
Hearts of Stone was great, and people were like, "Oh, Blood and Wine's better." I'm like, if it's better, then I'm in for a real freaking treat.
Hearts and Stone, I would give it like an 8, and I didn't do a review for it because I just couldn't get around to it at the time. I didn't play it till a little bit after it came out. But yeah, Blood and Wine, I was just like, I played that, and I was just like, oh my god, this is like amazing. It changed the setting a lot, and just the whole story for its main quest was fantastic. And then the side quest alone was just like, there was so much added in that, and I was like, for $20 or whatever, this is better than a lot of $60 price titles.
Yeah.
Just for this $20 expansion.
It's amazing how much different they made Toussaint look by just, like, yellowing up the color palette, right? Because that's all it really is.
Yep.
It's not like
Pretty
Novigrad
much.
and
It
Velen
really
didn't
is
have
that.
grass and trees all over, but it's
Yeah.
just you go there, it's all cheery and yellow and fantasy, and you're like, wow.
From that opening moment when you get there, and then there's the whole thing with the guy and the troll or whatever it is attacking him. Just like that whole scene, just like this is so much. It feels like a whole new game, more so than just like a little bit of added content. Because I'm so burnt out on DLCs being blah, just mediocre.
CD
And,
Projekt
something
did it right,
truly-
I have to say.
Huh?
CD Projekt did it right. I think right now they're the class
Yeah, they did
acting
it exactly
gaming.
right. They're arguably the best developer currently going, and their profit shows why. Because I know they're doing very well, and that's great. I can't wait for their Cyberpunk game.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much locked to write that guide already. I've been whining about it since I heard about it, and there's really no other option. So I'm looking forward to that too. Let them take as long as they need. 2019, I
agree, and I'm perfectly fine with. A lot of people get mad with delays and stuff. I'm one of the few people that is like, I'm actually not that I'm happy. I don't want, but at the same time, sometimes I'm relieved, especially if there's like a bunch of games clustered on one day, and I'm like, there's no way I can review all these games or play them all or whatever it may be. I'm like, oh, one of them got delayed. Okay, good.
Dude, we've been getting hammered where I work because it's just big title after big title, pretty much since Dishonored 2.
I mean, you had to skip Neo, which is fantastic, by the way.
Resident Evil 7. I still haven't played Dishonored 2 as much as I'd like to. Dragon Quest Builders I didn't get around to yet.
And I hate Minecraft, and I love that game.
Yeah.
Love that game.
It's got more structure, I hear.
There's plenty of room for improvement,
that's the reason why.
but it's Dragon Quest, and you can build shit. And I love building, and I love Dragon Quest, so how can you hate that?
And it's classic Dragon Quest, because it's based in the world of 1. Or Dragon Warrior 1 or Dragon Quest 1 is. So that blew me away. I was actually like, wow, I actually like this, and I thought I was going to hate it. That's another one that I thought I was going to hate that I loved.
So yeah, it's great when that happens. But you were talking about games that you hoped you would get delayed that didn't. I think up there I have to put Mass Effect Andromeda. They started talking about it. They stumbled into that game, I think, where they'd release a little bit and then nothing, and yeah.
That's part of the reason why I'm a little bit worried about it too. Is like I feel like has there been enough time for this, considering what you showed, and now and now here it is, and it's like, oh, okay. It wasn't like when Fallout got revealed in May or whatever, and then we got it. Like, there was a lot there. You could just tell from the beginning, it's like, at least this feels like there's been enough years, and you know that it's been worked on for as long as it has. I'm not as worried about Fallout 4. But then, like, with the Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
And I hope it's not, obviously. I don't want it to be a mess, but I worry.
Like, Fallout 4, I thought was probably the best game launch in recent history. Just because of how they handled it.
There's not very many more anticipated ones ever.
They built that hype train up.
The way they handled it was freaking fantastic.
They were like a composer
the amount of
with
people,
hype.
the amount of people that stayed up like all night long into the morning or got up early that morning for just the trailer reveal was like unreal. Like, I never felt like buzz like that for a game trailer reveal, like, ever, you know, because it was just a random middle of the week day or whatever. But like, people took off of work. Or like left, you know, took a break at work just to watch that initial reveal trailer when it went live at 10 a.m. or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the hype was real from that point on, and it delivered, because it was a really well done trailer that really immediately got us going. And then once E3 rolled around, the Bethesda conference and all that, it's just like, okay, it's on. This game's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. And it delivered mostly.
They slaughtered it at E3. They utterly just...
Yeah.
They dropped the mic at the end of that conference once they were done showing Fallout 4, because it's like, the hell's going to follow that?
Yeah, so. And it proved to be the winner, one of the best things of E3 that year, hands down.
And they came out with Fallout Shelter, and they kept that hype train up for, whatever, 5-6 months, whatever it was. So.
Yep, and it had been dying, and that game came out, and it was just like everyone was Fallout.
Yep. So... the game, people complain about it because it wasn't as much of an RPG, or they didn't do this and that, but, you know, the shooting was so much better to compensate for it, I think. And the base building elements were fine.
The combat was the best part of it for me. The improvements there, it just, I did have some issue with choices not feeling like... one thing that pulls me out of some games...
They definitely did not.
Yeah.
The choices didn't seem to matter at all, no matter what it was, but very, very minor times, like the very end, where you had to decide what faction you're working with or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, other than that final thing, to me, it felt like a lot of what I was doing didn't really matter as much. And 3 suffered from similar things, too, to a degree. But...
Well, the worst part of it was that they basically defanged you as a quote-unquote leader. Like, they give you the veneer that your choices are going to matter, and then they don't.
Yeah, you compare Fallout New Vegas to Fallout 4, and it's like, okay, Obsidian knows how to do multi-ending factions, right?
Yes.
Bethesda does not. They're just not comparable at all. And that game was a 9 out of 10 for me until I got to the end, because Greg was pushing ahead with the guide and doing the story. And then I got there at the end of the guide writing deadline to do the cleanup, and I went through all 4 factions over the course of the day, just the end bits. And I was like, wow, this is really a letdown.
Yeah, no, the endings were not surprising. The endings, they didn't deliver. It was awful. As far as what mattered and differences. Yeah, no, and it was. The combat was so much improved, other than I still hate the Suiciders. Screw themselves.
That ticking haunts our dreams.
Oh, God, man. So many deaths. So many deaths.
But it was creative, you gotta admit. A super mutant running at you with a mini nuke.
No, it was.
Football style.
It was horrifying. That's one of the few times in the game where you hear something, it's like... It was levels of, like, Captain Hook with the ticking clock and the alligator. Like, it was those kind of, talk about, like, anxiety. It's like, where is it? I know it's here. I can hear it. I don't see him. And then all of a sudden, like, out of an alleyway or a corner out of nowhere, boom, blown up. Ah, damn it.
Yeah, and they put those things in, like, subways, and you're just like, no, that's crap, guys. Come on.
Exactly.
I can't even dodge it.
Exactly.
So, hit and miss in that game, but it was a good game. But you said we were going to go an hour, Greg. We're at 2 hours and 12 minutes and change.
Yeah, I realize this. But hey, when you're having a good time, what can be done?
Out chilling.
Like I said, I said before we did this, like that was pretty much how I'm used to it with the podcast. I've ran over on every podcast I've guested on or been a part of. We just end up talking and running way, way over the allotted time.
Well, I mean, if you're a gamer and you love games, you know, how are you going to shut up
Yeah.
about games?
Exactly. No, that's one, and that's something that one of the other things I do love about doing what I do is just finding people that are passionate about gaming as much as I am. And like in regular world, I don't find people. The only thing that's good about that,
no, it's
there's
hard
only
to
one
be
thing.
walking in Walmart and be like, "Hey, fellow gamer."
Yeah.
It's happened, though.
The only thing good about some casual gamers as far as stuff is when I bring people to my house, like throw a party or something like that, and I get to show off the collection, I can really impress. As long as they're at least somewhat of a casual gamer, I can at least usually impress. I'm not going to impress like someone who doesn't like gaming at all, but that's the only one of the few pluses, I guess.
You'd show off your mega collection.
I gotta ask. Do you have a video where you record and show it off and
show it off and
something we can go watch?
I've been asked for years to get it done. The only reason why it hasn't ever been done is, unlike a lot of the bigger YouTube channels that have been able to do that kind of stuff, I like a lot of collection people that do that share their collections. They have much better game rooms than I do. I have a lot of stuff and it's here, but unfortunately I have so much stuff that's not on my walls that I would be like, oh, here's random bin A, here's random bin B, here's random bin C. I have tote after tote after tote and box after box just filled to the brim with games that aren't on my shelves. Because, like I said, unfortunately, I haven't bought enough shelving units to contain all the games, but I do have one collection video of my PS4 collection from last July, when I reached 150 games for PS4.
Wow. Physical games?
Yeah, I only count physical. I don't count digital as part. I don't count any digital as part of my collection. So when I say I have 4,000 games, it's 4,000 physical copies of games. Yeah, I don't count Steam libraries or digital copies. They don't count.
And I thought I was doing good with about 50 PS4 games. That's well above my average. But...
Yeah, no, it's at this point it's well over 200 as far as PS4 is concerned. I've slowed down a bit just because of budget, but I always am the limited run games that are coming out or games that are going to be very small releases.
Oh man, those limited run games.
The scalping is so ridiculous on them.
So did you buy Stardew Valley on PS4, the physical edition? I just have to know if you pre-ordered.
Yes, you did.
I have a pre-order in.
I knew
Wonderful.
it.
Yeah, I have
There's
that
no
pre-order.
way you didn't.
Yeah, that's pre-ordered, and I bought some, they had Overcooked or whatever it was, that got somehow a physical edition. I love the obscure ones that end up somehow getting on disc, which Limited Run does a lot of, but they're even harder to get. But then there's companies like Sodesco that are putting out, I love them. Like Sodesco, they're not the big titles or anything like that, but at least they're putting games out there on physical disc, like Among the Sleep or Nero, Nothing Ever Remains Obscure. Stuff like that, where they're at least putting the games out there on disc, and thankfully Amazon Prime discount helps a little bit as far as price are concerned. And I use a lot of people I don't have an account on GameFly as far as a monthly pay account, but if you just use GameFly, that's one of the best sites for buying used games.
Oh, you can just buy it right from them directly?
You buy it right from them directly, and you're guaranteed all the codes in the box. Because they don't ship them out when they let people borrow them or rent them.
The one thing that stopped me from ever buying from GameFly is I don't know if they're shipping these games with the correct case, the correct cover, the correct manuals.
Everything is in pristine condition.
So I should not be worried.
No, it's not like GameStop where you're not going to get the box. You're going to get a generic box, and you're not going to get the manual or codes or anything. With GameFly, basically when they get the games at their warehouse, they open them, they gut them, and then they put them aside, and they don't touch them until they sell them. And then, so when you buy the game, you get a brand new box, all the codes included that would have been included in the retail release, and a guaranteed to work disc. And, with Blu-rays, it's hard to bust up Blu-rays.
Yeah.
So 9 times out of 10, I've never even had a scratch on the games I get. I'm not saying that couldn't happen, because they are used games technically, but I've never had a single issue, and I bought dozens and dozens and dozens of stuff from GameFly, and usually they're going to be the first ones to discount stuff. So if you're looking for a more recent release and you want it for $20, the first place to look is going to be GameFly, because they're going to want to unload the mass amount of like for Resident Evil 7. I bet you very soon they'll have it on sale for $20. It won't be that long.
See, I've been getting most of my games off of Amazon. I've been pre-ordering a ridiculous number of them. Like, I used to never pre-order. And I rebelled very, very ardently against Microsoft when they tried that crap with the Xbone and, oh, used game sales, blah, blah, blah. I haven't bought a used game on the PS4 yet, just because if I'm buying a game, I can just get it on Amazon for pretty cheap after a while. And if I'm going to write about it, I need it, day one, so I might as well get the Prime.
That's the thing, too. Like, that's the struggle of doing what I do. Is, like, I have to have these games day one. So that's why some people are like, why do you not wait for the physical? I'm like, well, the physical is coming out 3 weeks after the digital release comes out. Unfortunately, that puts me in a bad spot. It sucks. I don't want to do that. I want to buy the physical on every one of them. But at the same time, it's like I got to do what's going to be economical for me to get the game at least, So that's the only thing that sucks. Like, I bought Stardew Valley digitally, and I'm going to be buying it physically as well. So basically, I'm buying it twice, which sucks. But at least with a game like that, it's like, okay, it's kind of worth it. And the physical's getting a little bit of extra, whatever with it.
Yeah, but, like a menu and a town map, swag,
Yeah, and but I'm the same way. I pre-order everything as soon as I do. That way, at least I know what's coming out. I can kind of see, okay, here's where my budget is, and here's what I've already pre-ordered, so I know how to deduct the money from my account. Like, I know this is when it's going to come out and all that kind of stuff. And Prime discount helps. Now, I've had a lot of issues with Amazon shipping me on. Like, if I pre-order something and it's not here the day it comes out, they get immediately an email, if not a phone call.
They've been pretty good for me recently. The only game they botched this entire generation was Final Fantasy 15. It got here a day late. I complained, and they gave me another month of Prime for free. And it came
basically,
the next day.
Mine has been, so I've been joking about it for a while. I've gotten 10 months of Prime free.
Oh, wow. See, I can almost set my clock by Amazon because they almost always, except for that one case, get the game to me the release day by 10 o'clock in the morning.
See, that's the lucky thing. I don't mind because of my stupid mail service. I get them like 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon, which is always a detriment as well. And that's part of it just because of my mail service. But that's the other thing too. So I thankfully it's not bad. But like if I'm gonna buy physical, I buy through them. I had to get the Switch through Best Buy, and I hate Best Buy. But I had to get the Switch through them because they had the pre-order up first. Amazon didn't have the pre-order for the Switch right away, so I ended up getting my Switch pre-order through Best Buy, which sucked. I'd rather have gotten it through Amazon with a discount, or like at least the games and stuff with a discount. I ended up buying 1-2 Switch off of Prime at least, so at least I got a little bit of discount on that piece of crap.
You know it's going to be bad, but you got to buy it anyways.
It was basically I had the donation incentive on my thing. It was like, hey, if we reach this extra amount, I'll buy another game. So it's basically, do I buy Skylanders, do I buy Just Dance, or do I buy 1-2 Switch? And that, when you come down to those choices, considering I was already getting Zelda, I was already getting Bomberman, that basically was a no-brainer at that point. And Binding of Isaac's physical release got delayed a little bit, so.
I was watching that Nintendo conference, and they showed 1-2 Switch, and I was like, Nintendo, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was one of those. But my whole thing was, I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, this is whatever. As long as it's free pack-in, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
that's
not.
what I was thinking.
It's not free, and it's a $50 release. Are you freaking kidding me? Like. So, but it'll be funny because that'll probably be my first review for the Switch. Will probably end up being that game because I don't think it's gonna have enough content for me to really like spend 20 hours playing it. I feel like a couple hours and I'll be pretty good on what I need to know for a review or not, And
then people are gonna be like, "Oh, why do you hate Nintendo when you give it a low?" Well, if you give it a low score, I shouldn't.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's gonna get a low score, but
I do too, but. Better safe than sorry.
But maybe it'll surprise me. Maybe it'll be a lot of fun because I'm going to have friends over tomorrow for the 24-hour stream. So that's why I'm getting it too. It's like, okay, I'm going to have at least people to play against with. I can test out all the modes, all the games, whatever.
To help. I have to imagine that has to
and
help.
That's how I'm going to base the review. Is like I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm playing by myself. I'm going to review 1-2 Switch as a single-player game. Like that's not going to work. It's not a single-player game,
So what time is your Switch stream tomorrow? When are you starting that off?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Okay. Time zone?
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
EST.
Okay.
Eastern.
So people can go check that out on your Twitch channel. I assume it'll be on Twitch.
Yes, twitch.tv/Cornshaq.
Okay.
Yep.
I might check that out. I'm eager to see some of the Switch. I didn't think it was
the plan is,
worth the money, but
I know there's other people already streaming stuff, but I'm gonna stream it from the get-go. I'm gonna unbox it, I'm gonna hook it up, and I'm gonna start my stream as soon as I unboxing it. That's how I'm gonna start, because that way I gotta spend 24 hours playing this thing, so I might as well include the beginning, like as part of the 24 hours. So that way people can see a full process of everything involved, the day one patch, the day one download that's gonna be involved, and all that fun stuff.
So how are you streaming the Switch on Twitch? That rhymed. Does it have like a did it have a built-in streaming capability, or? No,
I don't even know if it does. But I basically after I always use a capture device. I've been using it from day one because Sony blocks all the scenes. Certain scenes get blocked and other crap gets blocked. And that's
Yep.
So. The only issue at first with PS4 was the HDCP, but once they got rid of that, it wasn't an issue. But I have a stripper and a splitter, so that gets rid of the HDCP anyway. So I don't have any issues as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I've been using my capture device for it.
Is it a Roxio? What sort of?
It's one of those Elgatos, which some people don't like.
360
or this HD60. So
HD60, that's it.
Yeah, and some people have an issue with it because it doesn't do 1-for-1 on your computer screen. So like, there's a 3 or 4 second delay for what you're capturing. Yeah. But I'm watching on my TV. Like, I'm not watching it through that, of course. So like, it has no issue with me. It's just sometimes, like, if I'm doing a stream, if I react to something, like, it may be 1 second early from when they see it, but it's like such a minor thing that it doesn't really affect it. I'm eventually going to buy another one, but this one was, it was easy to use. It's very easy to use. That's the convenience of it. It's pretty easy to hook up and use.
So it's confirmed that the Elgato works on the Nintendo Switch.
Well, it's HD. As long as it has an HDMI, which it does, there should be no issue.
Yeah, the Elgato's been pretty crazy about, if you can hook it up to it, the Elgato's like, I'll get it. I haven't really had much of an issue with that.
The only issue with it at all is if you're somebody who's looking to stream or looking to capture older stuff because it's only HDMI. The older version of it allowed HDMI and either component or composite through attachments, but the HD60 that I use only uses HDMI, so I use another capture device if I'm doing older stuff, or I have to use a component to HDMI converter in order to just do it that way through the Elgato, which is a little bit of a pain. It only really comes into effect if I try to do Wii. The Nintendo Wii, if I hook that up still, it uses component only. It never got an HDMI port. It didn't have an HDMI port, so other than that,
yeah, I'm sitting on the older Elgato right now, so that's what I've been using for like 3 years now. So it's
yeah,
pretty good.
And I update it. Yeah, I update it randomly just because I was like, you know what, I have a little bit of extra money. I was like, yeah, I'll get the 60, and it's like I said, but I never had any problems with my original one. I'd probably still be using that if I didn't have the extra money or whatever to buy it.
Yeah, I thought about upgrading too, but I'm like, how many games on the PS4 do I really play that are 60 frames per second? And am I ever going to upload them? So, I mean, I'm mostly doing it to get screenshots and, a few boss battle videos. It's not a huge deal for me to have it. So.
Yep, but so it's one of those, and with me, it's even with me doing reviews and stuff, like capturing at 60, as long as like it looks good enough. Like, I'm not, the 4K isn't an issue yet, and stuff like that, but yeah, I've never run into really too many issues, and thankfully I use OBS Studio for my capturing and for my recording, for streaming and all, and it works great. So.
Yeah, I think I did a Magic the Gathering unboxing using OBS, and it's pretty simple. I had to mess around with it a bit and set up things, but pretty good. I have no real complaints about it.
Yeah, once the initial kind of setup goes, and I've been using it now for 3.5 years or 3 years or whatever it's been, and it's pretty easy.
Oh god, the initial setup. Yeah, it was a chore because I'd have to try and figure out, okay, I was trying to use it, I think, in conjunction with VLC, and I was having trouble getting things to record and just to...
Yeah, yep. I could see that, for sure.
Then you work it all out, and then you're like, okay, I'm never moving this laptop again so I can keep streaming.
Oh yeah, there's always an issue. Like, there's always a computer issue. There's always something that doesn't work, randomly, and it's like, why isn't this working? And then do 1,000 things, and then finally figure out what the one thing was wrong, one setting that got clicked or some crap that caused it not to function.
That's why I'm not too eager for Greg to update his headset, because it took us like 10 podcasts to finally get acceptable audio going 2 ways over a video game, and.
Well, I will recall you were blaming me an awful lot.
I will always blame
who did it end up being?
It ended up being a number of things at numerous different times.
Oh, okay, a number of things.
Yes.
Oh my. Well, it's almost midnight here. I think we should probably wrap this up. I for one am going to watch your Switch stream if I can get away. I got to work tomorrow, but I think I can get away with it. Plus, I'd love to see it get set up and turned on and played. I mean that should be entertaining. So I'll watch that for sure, and I'll post a link to it as well.
Cool.
But it has been fantastic talking with you. I'm just tickled pink. I love this. Thank you so much.
No problem. It's fun. It was a fun time.
Alright, so yeah, if there's anything you ever want to do later at any other date, just give Greg or I a shout. You know where we are on the internet lands, and yeah, it was a pretty cool time, just shooting the shit about video games, which is what we like to do. Alright, so see everybody, that was the interview with Cornshaq. I hope you all enjoyed it, and it will be going up on YouTube in whenever the hell I get around to uploading it. Till next time.
All right, take care, everybody. Thank you.
Yep. See you guys.